said I got to say something, baby, hand me the mic. I said I got to say something, better hand me the mic. Somebody hand me a mic, cause I got to say something, so just hand me a mic. When I need to say something, better hand me the mic. I said I got to say something, better hand me the mic.
What episode is this, Selpa?
This is episode 39.
Episode 39. Yeah. Today, we're joined by Paul Hope. So I wrote a few things, like a little bit of an intro. Is an avid San Francisco 49ers supporter, check. One of the hosts of the 49ers Faithful UK podcast.
That's correct, yeah.
Check. Featured on the Let's Talk Sport podcast at times.
Yep.
You're going to touch on that. You play flag football. That interests me. You're a dad of two. Really interesting guy. Paul Hope, welcome to People Like Us. Do you know what I mean? So, well, I'll tell you what. We are going to touch on the American football and the podcasting and stuff like this, but let's work out who you are and where you're from.
Yeah,
let's start with that.
Expecting that. I mean, starting to watch your podcast, we've moved in similar circles.
Have we?
I would believe so, but I don't think we've ever kind of met. I think we've been sliding doors.
Right.
So, Adam, your good friend.
Pearson.
I was in his brother's year at school.
Danny's?
Didn't know Danny very well, but I was in Danny's year at school. So I knew of Adam from school ways. And then as you get older and you start going on the town and playing football and drinking, I had a bunch of mates that crossed over with Nick Wilby and Adam Pearson. So when I heard your name, I thought, we have got to have kind of either been in the same places, same bars. Because obviously I'm 43, 44 this year, grew up, Darlington, Branksome lad. Now live in Teesside.
Didn't know you were a Branksome lad.
So yeah, I went to Branksome. So when you've been telling stories about certain teachers, I'm like, this is eerily scary that we've kind of come from the same town, same place. And what I will say before we start, this is a show and not a podcast. I'm on your team with this.
Thank you, sir.
So my journey for podcasting started with an iPhone 8, a pair of Apple headphones, Skyping the three lads on the 49er Faithful UK podcast. We didn't do visuals. We literally did an audio-only podcast. And it was weird looking back how we managed to talk without seeing each other. And then I got the bug and I got a little laptop. Then I got a microphone. Then I got some, different headphones. And to the setup I've got now, I feel is pretty decent. But I've never done a face-to-face podcast. And I've always wanted to do one of these. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on, because this is like a bucket list item.
Is it?
For me,
definitely. I really appreciate you coming. It's a long way out, isn't it, from Darlow?
I've come from Middlesbrough. I live in Middlesbrough now, yeah.
What a trek.
Yeah.
Do you know, all this podcast stuff, I got loads to ask you about it. Because to me, for us, this is, I feel like we don't know what we're doing. But I watch people like you and I think, oh, I need to learn from this guy. This guy knows what he's doing. So I really appreciate those kind of words you said. But that, again, you've thrown me off completely. I was going to ask you, sort of your life, where you grew up. So you're from where I'm from?
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
And so Branksome School as well?
Yeah, definitely.
That's crazy.
So I was watching the one you did with your brother-in-law this morning, the scout leader, what a guy he is. And you were asking him his questions on his life. And I was thinking, what category would I put myself in at school? Because I didn't fit any of the categories. Mm-hmm. So obviously, I grew up on Branksome, where Branksome Shops is. I lived at the bottom of there, Malvern Crescent.
No way.
So I lived close to the school. So weirdly, when I was at school, I didn't fit in with the popular kids.
Right.
I didn't fit in with the other categories that you had. I was half decent at football. I've always been a good runner.
Right.
So the teachers loved me. I was like athletics captain. Any running event, they were like, right, Paul, you're doing that. And coming from a small school like Branksome, that had its disadvantages at town sports, because you'd go and I'd be doing the 400, the 800, the 1500, where other schools would have a 1500 runner, or they'd have an 800 runner. I remember finishing the semi-final of the 800 metres, literally swig of water, and Mr. Foster at the time was like, right, Paul, you're in the 1500-minute final now, son. And I was thinking, any chance? Looking back, they wouldn't get away with it nowadays, because, but yeah, I grew up where you grew up, and I went to see your school. And
it's funny you said that town sports thing there. You just literally just a flash memory. I remember once, could have been year 7, year 8, I can't remember. I must have been particularly having a good year. So I ended up being in the town sports. I got took to Middlesbrough, like a stadium thing in Middlesbrough. That's where the town sports were. And I was doing the 100 metres. God knows how I ended up. I didn't think I was the fastest, but I was 100 metres. Anyway, I remember feeling, I'd beat most people at school. I thought, yeah, I'm pretty fast runner, me. I'm a pretty fast runner. And I can remember turning up at these town sports and stood on this starting line. And honest to God, it was like I was stood with blokes, like proper blokes. I was half the size of them. And I was, still a little bit of you're still confident. You think, watch what happens here. Honest to God, I come dead last. And I mean dead last. It wasn't one of them, he's finished in a bunch. No, they finished in a bunch, and there was me running at the end. Yeah, those town sports were brutal, So Branksome. Right, so you know all about Mr. Atwell's, you know all about this. Yeah, you know all about it.
Similar to you, my life path took a similar path. You and Adam were talking, I could relate to that.
Right.
Not going to name names, but there was certain kids that didn't associate with me in school, but where I lived, I hung around with on a night. I did the milk round. You may not be aware of the story, but I used to collect the milk money on a Friday night. That was part of my job. And I got mugged once. Now, it sounds quite scary, and you were laughing, but for anyone watching, so days before mobile phones, doing my little route round Branksome.
Right.
Jedburgh Drive, this lad's following me. I know he's following me. I knew him off the estate. I knew his family.
Right.
He was well known.
Right.
And I thought, what do I do here? So I just thought, just continue as normal. Got to the last house, and back in them days, you had a man bag, and you had all the notes in a folder. So I put the folder in my jacket. Right. Comes out the house, this lad who I know, pulls a knife on me, give me the bag.
No way.
In that moment, took the bag off, just handed it to him.
Of course.
Off he ran. I goes home, tells me mum, police come. The first police officer was a bit of an idiot, to be fair. He was like, you've got no marks on you. You must be in on it. Until I pulled out all the notes. I got an award for bravery because of the knife. I was in the Northern Echo, which was a big thing. The milkman was obviously over the moon because, looking back now, he's claimed on the insurance for all that money.
Yeah.
Looking back at the time.
Of course.
And even my mates were like, I think of pocketing any. It just didn't cross my mind. And that was the kind of lad I was. I kept my nose clean. I was quite clean cut, even though I was living on Branksome and hanging around with people. I'd go home at night and whatever they were doing, I didn't want to know until I went the next morning.
No.
So left school, went to the QE, because I don't know if it was like this for you. You either went to the tech to get a trade or you went to the QE. And
to get a future.
one of about 4 in my year that went to QE, and I hated every single minute of it.
Now, that surprises me. That college to me seems like, as somebody who wasn't bright enough to go to the QE, I had to go to the tech because I didn't pass my GCSEs. I always looked at people who went to QE and just thought, if only.
I didn't fit in, mate.
No.
Honestly, 16, 17, I was banging into me football. As you said, we went to Branksome. You had brand new Nike Air Max. You had a trackie on. You go to QE and you had boggers, as you called them. You had the trendy kids. You had kids who were going downtown. I was 16, 8 stone wet through. A pint would send me under. And there was me and my 3 mates. Now, 2 of them lads were really intelligent. Went on to university, run accountancy firms. I was average, and I knew I was average, and I struggled with maths.
Right.
Now, nowadays, kids get all these tutors. I don't know who your maths teacher was, but mine wasn't particularly great.
Right.
And basically just used to throw the board rubber at you if you didn't get anything right, which at Branksome, that was normal.
Standard
I
practice.
just assumed that was what happened. And I didn't get my maths GCSE till I was 31.
31?
I had to go back to QE, yeah. So I got like 7 or 8 A, B, C's, but I didn't get maths. I got like a D in maths, which technically was a fail.
Yeah.
And the job I do now, it's quite important that I have a maths GCSE. So I went back at 31.
Right.
And don't know whether you should do this, but the night before, I thought I was revising, and I downloaded the wrong paper. So I downloaded the higher maths paper, thinking there's no way I'm going to do this. Went into the maths exam the next day with a load of 16, 17-year-olds and absolutely aced this paper, only to find out I was in the lower tier. Now, all that mattered to me was getting a C, so it goes on your CV. So, yeah, there's a bit of a brief introduction before we get into the podcasting.
It piqued my interest. What is your day job then?
Very boring. So I work for the local authority.
Right.
I don't know if I'm allowed to name.
What is the local authority?
So I work for Dartmouth Borough Council.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Been there 18 years this year. So
well, they say it's a career for life, not a job, don't they? Councils.
So I started, and this will be where I thought you were going. So I can remember back early 2000, there was 2 young kids sadly lost life on the railway lines near us. They were playing. It wasn't like a cry out. They were just stumbled on the railway lines. They were about 6 or 7. They got killed. And I think I was 24 at the time. And I remember thinking, more needs to be done for kids in our area. I was still kind of, half living at home with my mum, half kind of like crashing on mates' sofas. And I saw an advert in the paper for youth offending. They were going to open Branksome School on a Friday night for the kids to have a proper old school rave. The police were manning it. It was called the West Side Project. And literally, they turned a blind eye. The kids turned up with a bit of drink. And what they said to the kids was, for the next 8 weeks, any misbehaving in school, any bother on the estate, we'll cancel the rave. So the second week, they cancelled the rave because the kids had messed about. And after that, the kids on that estate policed the estate because not one of them wanted to be responsible for losing this rave. And at the end of that project, I was approached by the head of the youth offending service in Dalton. At the time, I was working call centre work, Orange, Capita. And he was like, you've got a knack with these kids. Do you fancy coming to work for me? 24 years of age, 12 in the contract. I thought, what have I got to lose here? Absolutely nothing. So took the job, did a bit of training. And then in 2007, they sent me to Eastbourne School in Darlington. It was advertised as the worst school in the UK. There was a full-time police officer, and I'm talking fully operational police officer. She had the pepper spray, the handcuffs. She was based in an office at the school.
Wow.
And I was the youth offending officer attached to the school.
Right.
And I absolutely loved that job. For 4 years, it was a career. It's where I met Cameron. It's where I met some others that I could name. The beauty I had, Dan, was I wasn't a teacher. So the kids could call me Paul. I grew up on Branksome. So I kind of knew the stigma of living on what was called a rougher school. And the kids just really related to me. The PE teachers weren't that bothered about the football teams. So I thought, got a quick win here. So I took over the football teams. It worked really well for the youngers, years 7 and 8. I could basically say to them, any messing about, you're not on the football team. There was a large travelling community. I did a lot of work with them, got them on board early doors. Now, I'm kind of gutted he's not here today, but I think my time just ended before Ben. Because Ben mentioned coming to Eastbourne School, and some of the names Ben's mentioned were my kids.
Right.
But I lost the funding for the job in 2010, 2011. So I'd seen these kids from year 7 to year 10, then my funding ended and I got bumped to social services, which I'm sure we'll get onto. So for that last year, I had to run a football club outside of the school to keep in.
Right.
But I don't think Ben was part of that. But again, from watching your podcast, I thought, how small of a world is that? This kid's come from Romania to Darlington and he will know the people that I know.
He'll probably know you.
I was trying to think because he mentioned David, the head of year that he got attached to.
Yeah, David.
And I definitely remembered David from school because David's year group were my kids.
Right.
So to rewind, you're going to love this story. So first day on the job, I get sent to Dodmeyer School.
Dodmeyer. Which one's Dodmeyer again?
So off Neasham Road.
Yes.
At the bottom.
Sorry. Yes.
So all I'm told is I meet a guy from the school called Alan. Deputy head teacher, he's going in to talk to these kids about coming to big school.
Right.
So, like today, drives up, think, right, Alan, get to Dodmeyer School. This bloke comes over. He looks a bit like Jason Statham, bit of a superstar hero, broad Glaswegian, didn't quite understand him. Goes in the classroom and he had an aura. The kids just loved him. Gets his pen out, goes to the whiteboard, and he writes on, right, kids, my name is Mr. A. Dick. Well, as you can imagine, all the kids start laughing, and I thought, where's the camera? First day at work, you're having my life. But no, he was called Alan Dick, deputy head teacher.
Big up Dick.
And he owned it, Dan.
Did he?
Absolutely owned it. If any of the kids give him any jip in the corridor, he owned it. But I knew he wasn't going to be at the school long. He moved on to bigger and better things. But my first year working with him in that environment really brought me out of my shell a little bit.
Right.
And what I will say about Eastbourne School is they just let you kind of do what you need to do for the kids. So I was running after school clubs. I was running holiday clubs, for those. My job was kind of those kids that were at risk of maybe going down a path they didn't want to go down and bringing them with some kids that they maybe never have associated with before. And And even now, I mean, I see Cameron doing well. He was the year above. So Cameron wasn't really on my radar because he was such a good kid at school. As I said to you before, if you'd said to me, right, Paul, we're going back 10 years, we're going to pick one kid from that school that would be an MMA fighter, Cameron Hardy would not have been mentioned because he was just such a nice kid.
Really?
He was, honestly.
And the off-it thing is, he was actually, as far as I understand it, is that right, Southpaw? Whilst he was at school, wasn't he doing that sort of stuff then?
Yes.
Wasn't
he was
like,
always quite into his fitness. He was always, so again, I'm a big believer of not stepping on anyone's toes. So when I got the job at the school, year 7 in 2007 was my year group, and Cameron was in year 8. So each year group had their own kind of like sports teacher. Right. And they were really good at football. So Cameron's best mate, Jim Wilson, he plays for Darlow Town now. I don't know if you follow the non-league football stuff. They're quite a good football team. So I kind of had a little understanding with them, but because they never appeared on my radar, but because I was in the school, like I said, the kids knew me as Paul, they knew what I was doing. I kind of had that respect straight away from the likes of Cameron, which helped in my job. Yeah. And that was the only time in my life that I've had what I call a career. So then I went to social services. Frontline social services was not for me. Taking like children off people and, you know, seeing some of the stuff I've seen. So then I moved to housing when I decided I'd had enough. And I still see those kind of people now. So I've been in housing 10 years. Rent collection is what I do day to day.
Yeah.
Not my passion, as you'll probably see from, I'm decked out in my Niners gear.
Yeah.
You've probably done your stalking for your homework on my social media.
I did a bit.
So my passion is, I want to be a content creator. Yeah. I want to do this full time.
Yeah, that's clear. It's clear to see. Not that that's what you want, but it's clear to see that you are good enough to do that, I believe, in my opinion. It's funny what you say, just wind it back, you know, to the school thing. I think there's something in that, like, because of where you were from and because of the experiences you'd been through, you can see why the kids would relate to somebody like that. For the most part, through, you know, my experience going back to Branksome where we went, that was, you know, I don't remember any teacher, possibly Mr. Tucker, big up Mr. Tucker, possibly him, but bar that, I can't remember any teacher that was relatable or in a position of authority. I know you weren't actually a teacher, but you were in a position of authority. And I think that's done you well because, like you say, you're from Malvern Crescent and, you know, you might not have been the bad lad, but you were around him. And
what was good as well, Dan, when I got the job, I got my first flat behind the Copper Beach, Lauder Drive.
Yeah.
1-bedroom flat. I thought it was the absolute boyo. And then I get to this job at Eastbourne School. Didn't click how close Eastbourne School was. So my personal life was kind of on display for them to see.
Right.
I met a teacher at the school. We got married.
No way.
We had a child. One of the things I wanted to tell you about that is one of your episodes, you were talking about whether it was allowed. We were a Christian school, and when we started dating, we were pulled into the head office and we were told, if you're just messing about, this ends now. But if it's serious. Now, sadly, my marriage didn't end. My marriage ended. Not my fault, but I can't go into too much of the detail. No. But when I'm going to big up these kids, which you'll laugh. So 2015, 2016, my marriage ended. 35, 36-year-old bloke. Basically, lads my age were married. Nobody was going out.
Of course.
I was having shared care with my little girl. So there was 50% of the time she was with me, 50% of the time she was with a mum. So for 50% of the time, 36 years of age, got my own house. Nobody wanted to go out. And I remember hearing on the grapevine that my ex had been out in town and she'd kind of approached these kids that had gone to the school and their loyalty was clearly to me.
Right.
So hearing that on the grapevine was a little bit like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, these kids are now in their early 20s, they're out drinking. And I remember going out for a football match, and I'm not into football anymore. I'm not going to name names, but I went out one Saturday into town, about 5:30, football game, lads my age. Sad, lonely man's club. Do you know what? I was from an era when went to town, you wore smart clothes, shoes, smart jeans, shirt, blazer.
Yeah.
So I rocks up at this pub in Darton Town Centre, and all the lads my age have got hoodies on, scrutty trainers, jeans, and I'm like, what on earth? Yeah. They spent the first hour chewing my ear off about never getting with a woman again, women are evil, you need to do this, you need to do that.
Cheers, lads.
And then we walked into the tapas bar,
Yeah.
And this bunch of girls walked in and there were like flies round honey.
Right.
And I was not asked. To the point where I became the target because these girls were like, he's not talking to us. And I was like, I'm not interested. Just come up with marriage. So I ended up pieing these lads off my own age.
Right.
Never been one for just going into town on my own. I remember walking into the Wetherspoons, sit down on my own, get a pint, never been a big drinker. And some of the football team from Eastbourne School were like, all right, Paul, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm just, don't know. And they took me under the wing.
Right.
And for 2 years, I kind of had my midlife crisis. So I was going out, I was partying, I was drinking, they were coming back to my house after town.
Oh,
and I
man.
look back and I think those 2 years, I'm glad that happened. I'm a totally different person now. We'll get onto with lockdown. I don't drink anymore. But to think the impact that I had on their lives when they were teenagers, and I wanted to use this opportunity to say thank you to them because they repaid that. They pretty much took me under their wing. And if it wasn't for them, I could have gone down a really dark, slippery slope.
I love that.
I just thought that would be something that you would like.
Yeah,
to
and
hear.
these are the same kids that you taught.
So, like you said, I was at Eastbourne School. I kept them on the straight and narrow. There were a few cheeky lads. I had my favourites. There was a few strings I had to pull sometimes. There was some teachers that would come knock on my door and be like, this kid is not playing for the football team this week. And I'd be like, we were a small school, Dan. Yeah. We couldn't afford to be benching star players.
No.
But on the same hand, I had to explain to these kids that it was an honour to represent your school, and just because you're the star footballer, you don't get to mess about. And I introduced like a report card system where I wasn't an idiot. If I'd said to these kids, you need 100% to play for my football team, it weren't happening.
Yeah.
We had a 75%. So that gave them a bit of a, do you know what? I can mess about in his lesson and I'll be all right.
Yeah.
But then the teachers got on board with it as well.
Right.
And it worked really well. I mean, the holiday clubs were fantastic. The after-school clubs. Looking back now, I've maybe missed my niche because obviously with kids these days, that kind of stuff's expensive. And I was doing it for free.
Right.
So every school holidays, like now we're in the Easter holidays. So when you messaged and said this week was available, that was music to my ears because I've got 2 girls at home that are off. One's off school, one's at college.
Right.
So yesterday, you've probably seen on social media, I was at Ninja Warrior in Leeds, 43 years of age yesterday, bloody doing this assault course with my 13-year-old stepdaughter. My 16-year-old stepdaughter's at college.
Yeah.
But I didn't know whether you wanted me to jump ahead to my current life because, as I said, marriage ended, going out with the young lads for a couple of years. And then in 2018, I decided I need to grow up a bit here, Dan. I'm going to be 38.
Right.
Get back on the online dating. So I've got some funny stories about that. And then I met Tracy, who's my current partner. Mm-hmm. So she's the reason I've moved to Middlesbrough.
Right.
Never thought I would ever leave Darlington.
No.
2018, met Tracy online, which is, I think, is quite a funny story. Lockdown came in, like everyone else. I thought it was going to be for 2 weeks. I remember ringing her. They're sending me home from work. And I don't know what to do because obviously she lives in Middlesbrough, I live in Darlington. She said, pack a bag. Just come to mine and we'll see what happens. And I never went home, basically.
Right. Funny enough, that happened to Adam. Danny's younger brother. Same thing. He'd started seeing a girl around that time. Right at the start of the lockdown thing, it was, come round, just see what happens. And he never left. They now have a son and he never did leave. He stayed. That was what it is. These funny stories about your online dating, tell me more.
So, as I alluded to earlier, I had the 50-50 shared car. So, I was debating on the way here whether to share this, but from watching the pods with yourselves recently, you seem on a similar page to me, so I could not be arsed with online dating.
Right.
So I was going into town with these young lads, and they were in their early 20s. So obviously the girls they were talking to were early 20s, old enough to be their dad.
Right.
So that wasn't a way of meeting someone.
No.
The women my age, the good ones were taken. They were all married, so I dabble on online dating. So 2017 was horrific. I don't know whether my pictures weren't good enough, whether my banter online. 2017 was a horrific year for me personally.
It was a drought.
I just couldn't get anything at all. And then 2018 was
Zero
weird.
bites.
I had a female friend who was like, right, I'm going to help you. So she set up my profile. She picked my pictures. I started getting a few messages. There was one Saturday night, about May time 2018. I was at home. Little was in bed. My phone pings at 10 o'clock. Now, I thought it was going to be one of the lads saying, where you're at, Paul, do you fancy coming out for a beer? Looked at it. You have a new message. All right, okay. Clicked in. No profile picture, no information. And I thought, you know what, Dan? It's 10:30 on a Saturday night. What's the worst that can happen here? I'm going to have a bit of banter because it's either a troll or it's one of my mates who's just, set up an online dating account. So started messaging back and forth. It went for about an hour. About an hour in, she was like, you've not asked me for a picture. You've not asked me for any personal information. Like, this is weird. And I was like, well...
Most people have asked me for a picture of my genitals by now. Do you know what I mean?
So I was like, what do you fancy having a phone call? So we had a phone call, got on well. Now, because of my social services background, she knows I'm going to share this, so she laughs. I managed to glean some pretty key pieces of information. Name, where she worked, where she lived. You can find out anything on social media. So I was like, straight away, found her. Found she was a real person. Found that I had some mutual friends. Did my homework. And about 10 minutes later, I WhatsApped her my full name, date of birth, picture, social media. Now, she tells the story to her friends like, what a gentleman. He's offered me all this personal information. But to me, there was no risk because I'd already found her.
Yeah.
So then we arranged to meet up a week later. And she was like, where should we meet? I said, look, we'll go to the farmhouse. It's just outside of Darlton. You from Middlesbrough. I said, but meet me in the car park. She said, that's a bit weird. I was like, no, trust me. If we meet in the pub, it's too obvious that it's a first date. But if we meet outside and then we walk in, we get left alone.
Right.
And my female friend at the time was like, don't come on too strong. Play it very cool. So I go to this date. Thought I'd absolutely smashed it. Played it dead cool. Lo and behold, later she said to me she was close to pieing it off because I'd played it that cool. She thought I wasn't interested. So that's the funny story I want to share where I'm thinking I'm the boy or, I've secured the next day. She drove back over to Middlesbrough that night thinking
he's not asked.
I'm not too sure about this lad. He's not as good as he was on the messaging, as he was on the phone. But I was nervous. She'd just come out of a marriage, so she was at the start of what I call her dating journey. She was very clear about that. Right. And I was like, I've been single 2 years ago. I'm not really wanting to mess about. I'm kind of like, I'm ready to commit to another relationship. But I must have done something right, Dan, because we're still here.
Yeah. So this is the girl that you've...
Yeah, Tracy.
You remarried or are you just partners?
We're not remarried at the moment.
No.
It could be on a card, but obviously, as you get older in life, there's like finances and stuff with her ex. And I get on well with her ex. I'm not the reason their marriage ended. No. He's like today, he's picked Jasmine up from me so I can come here.
Right.
Because her mum's at work.
So you have a good relationship with him?
Yeah, I've got a great relationship with the two girls. And a good relationship with Mark, Tracy's ex.
Oh, well, that's worked out well, hasn't it?
Yeah, and he's a Darlton lad as well, which is quite funny given that like she's Middlesbrough born and bred, and she's like, I've had 2 long-term partners in my life.
She's obviously got a thing for the Darlton lads, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's where you are now. You're still working in the housing now?
Yeah, it does all right. It's Monday to Friday. It's 9 till 5, flexi time, working from home, which, to be honest, I didn't think I'd enjoy, but
I'm not sure how I feel about that. When the working from home thing started a few years ago, it was all, COVID time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
At first, I thought it was a really good idea. I suppose like a lot of people did. I thought, this is great. You don't have to go anywhere. You can, work in your pajamas. Ideal. I don't think that's very good for people. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously it hasn't affected you because you haven't gone in on yourself, but I know some people that work from home and it really, really they've really became very introverted and not wanting to go out anymore. And I don't think it's a good idea. But have you not experienced anything like that?
Well, obviously my environment's slightly different. I know, obviously your day job, like you're one of the management team, and I don't know how relaxed your rules are. My rules are not relaxed.
No.
The first lockdown, do you know when you talk to people about lockdown, like, oh, the first one was great, furloughed, going for walks? That was not my experience.
Mine neither.
My local authority totally understand we were classed as key workers. The first few months we weren't doing a day job. What we were doing was we were checking in on the vulnerable members of society.
Right.
So I got sent home with a phone and a notepad and a list of numbers. And it was my job every day to ring these people. Did they need anything? Were they all right? Bear in mind, I had 3 kids bouncing off the wall, trying to be homeschooled, partner trying to work. We'd get friends and family that were furloughed, ringing up, going out for a walk, and can we pop round? And we're like, are you crazy? The only thing about the first lockdown I liked was the weather was mint.
Yeah.
And Tracy's house, big garden, kids could play outside. But from the second I woke up to logging off at work was mental. So that led me nicely into podcasting because I needed an outlet on a night. So I got more involved with the Niners group and we were doing more podcasts on a night. And like I said, it's just an iPhone with headphones plugged in. When I listen to some of my early stuff, I think, how on earth were people listening to us? But then the second and third kind of lockdowns just kind of got merged into one. And now I work 3 days from home, 2 days in the office. So I kind of like the mix.
All right, that's
a bit of both. I work in rent collection, so a lot of my job is similar to you guys with sales, on the phone to people. A lot of people transition nicely to paying for things online. People like an email. I say this to my boss all the time. If I can get away with not making a phone call and I like to talk, I send an email. And a lot of people have got on board with that. But moving to Middlesbrough, the commute to Dalton is a bit of a pain. The 66 isn't great. So I think I'd like to go back full time. But I have a nice mix at the moment.
You're based in Darlington Town Hall?
Yeah.
There it is.
So when we work from home, they're checking the keystrokes, they're checking how many people you're talking to. There's none of this like, you know, put a Netflix on and you have to have your webcam on so they can ring you at any time. They've given us all these jackets that we have to wear. So if the boss rings you and you're not wearing either smart attire or your jacket, you can get into a bit of bother. So that's my experience. I don't have the pyjama kind of thing that...
Yeah. This is the thing. I mean, I never thought of it that way because I didn't experience that. I was in sales. So how my sort of, you know, worth was quantified is how much money have you brought in by Friday? You know, if there was no money brought in by Friday, I'd have had some questions to answer. You know what I mean? I'd have, you know, some people would want to know what have you been doing. But for the most part, I could have, you know, started work on the Monday, got my sale for the week, got enough money and not, you know, I could have just tossed it off for the rest of the week, really.
Yeah.
But I know people that work in similar thing to you. I know someone that works for a van hire company in Dalton, a well-known one, Northgate, I think it is.
Yeah.
Same thing. They're really like micromanaging like every activity, like keystrokes, as you say, like how long you've been logged on the system, you know, like, and
to be fair, my boss now, I've got a new boss. She's absolutely fantastic.
Is she?
I'm getting really well with her. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead on your page. It's what we do on the Niners. We go down rabbit holes. You'll have seen that I ruptured my Achilles tendon in 2022.
Yeah, it did.
So the downside of lockdown was working from home, not being as active as I used to be. And then January 22, I thought, you know what, Dan? New year, new me. I'd put a bit of weight on. I'd had to go to a funeral, basically. My suit didn't fit. So I'm chuckling because I say of us of a similar age. I've heard the lads wind you up over the last few weeks about like age and fitness. The episode when Ben was talking about not going to the gym and you were like, I could see every part of you was like, it's part of my life, the gym. I was a member of the Penthouse many moons ago.
No way.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I thought that would be quite funny.
We really have lived the same life.
So me and my
This is so weird.
I know, it's scary.
I kind of feel like in a minute you're going to say, by the way, Dan, I'm your dad. Do you know? That's what I feel like it's coming, do you know?
But so 2022, I thought, you know what? I'm indestructible. I used to be a runner. I started flag football. So I love this wonderful, amazing game of American football, but I'm not built to play what's called contact football. And I don't know how much of it you know from our point of view, but amateur American football, think pub league Sunday morning football, where people could attack you in helmet and pads.
Right.
That doesn't sound appealing to me as a 38-year-old man, you know, family to support, coming off not being fit. So I found flag football, which I thought was just a kid's game, to be honest. Very similar to tag rugby. You put a belt around you, the way you're tackled, someone pulls your flag.
Right.
So I go to the first training session, think I'm the boy, or decked out in all my American football gear. Didn't have a clue. Broke my finger, trying to catch a ball the wrong way. Finger broke. But you know, you kind of get a bug for something.
Yeah.
I thought, right, I'm determined. I'm going to play this game. So the training was on Sunday morning. So first session breaks my finger. This next session's a Sunday morning. I thought, you know what? I'm not going to drive to training because, I'm going to get fit. I decided to run. So we live in Martin. So we live right near Stewart's Park. Mm-hmm. And the flag football team play in a wonderful indoor facility that's owned by Middlesbrough Football Club. 10 minutes in the car. Google mapped it. Thought, I can run this. Gets to Stewart Park and I just hear a pop. Now, I thought someone had tripped me up. Hits the deck. Goes to stand up and my foot's all wobbly.
Oh. Yeah.
So, but the weird thing is, it didn't hurt. So I picks my phone up. Hiya, Tracy. Can you come and pick me up? So what was weird, we were still in kind of COVID. So she comes and gets me. She takes me to James Cook. Gets to the front entrance. I'm obviously hopping. Security guard. Tracy's like, what? Only one person allowed in.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I'm like, mate, like, are you kidding me? Oh, no, I had to hop into the main reception. Once I was then signed in, she was allowed to come and be with me. So then for 90 minutes, I'm sat in this chair, my foot's flopping, I'm going...
Are you in pain?
Yeah, at this point, it kicked in.
Right, the adrenaline's gone now.
So she keeps going to the counter. She's quite high up in her job, so she was getting a little bit more antsy at this point. And then sometimes things just happen. This doctor just walked past and went, you've ruptured your Achilles tendon. How long have you been here? I looked at the doctor and I was like, about an hour. And the doctor went mental. He went mental at the staff. Wheelchairs pulled up. I'm tucked in this room. And now the test, they just lay you on a bed. Your feet dangle off and they just pinch up your Achilles tendon and your foot's supposed to move. Well, obviously mine didn't move.
Right.
So he whacks the cast on. Off form I go. And 2 weeks I wait for my appointment. Now, at the time, you don't question the NHS, do you? Get the cast on. You go home. By day 3, I'm thinking, this pain is unreal. I'm eating paracetamol like Smarties because I wasn't allowed ibuprofen. So then I goes up to Redcar Urgent Care Centre for my appointment. Day before my appointment, we've got a white fluffy dog called Trixie. Right. Absolutely beautiful. I need the toilet. I'm hobbling on my crutches to go up the stairs. Trixie runs in front of me. I slip off my crutch and stand upright. I heard the crunch. I fell to the floor and I was sobbing like a baby for about an hour and Tracy couldn't move me. So it goes to Redcar about 3 hours later to take the cast off, to put me in this fantastic boot. And the woman's like, so what pain medication have you been on, Paul? I was like, not at all. She goes white and she's like, yeah, you really should have been on some high dosage of codeine. So she prescribed me the codeine. Now, to counteract myself, from this point, the NHS were fantastic.
Right.
So
once they clicked, it was something bad.
I was offered 2. You could either get it surgically repaired, but I'd have to go on a waiting list.
Right.
And at that time, there was the risks of them opening my leg, infection, or because of my age, so being an old man, played in, she was like, I'll whack this boot on and it'll heal naturally, but you have to be seen every 2 weeks. So I was like, do you put the boot on now? She's like, yeah. So obviously my boss is thinking, I need him back at work ASAP. I'm thinking that's the quickest way. So I get fitted with this fantastic moon boot, which I would say you could walk. It's more like limping, but you had to sleep with it. So I had this big Robocop boot on, got the codeine, and then I think it was 5 months, 27 days later, I was back on my feet running, which I'll let you ask. They told me a year when I did it, and I was back on the field within 5 months.
That's a pretty serious injury. I think Cameron was out for a lot longer. What did he do again?
Yeah, he did his ACL as well. And
ACL?
Yeah.
And that was what you did?
I ruptured the Achilles tendon.
And he did ACL.
So they told me a year. I'll be honest, I was like, that's me done. I'm not playing flag football. No. I'm not doing sport. The May, I went to watch a flag football tournament, and I think that was the best thing for me because my competitive juices were like, even though I was going to be 39, coming off the back of an injury, I was like, this is a grown sport in the UK. I can do this. And I had a young physio, an 18, 19-year-old kid, and he pushed me. I hated him at times, but the funny story will laugh. So my 42nd birthday goes for my appointment, August the 10th. I thought I'm going for a routine checkup. Gets in the room. There's all these cones laid out. And he's like, happy birthday, Paul. We're doing sprints today. I was like, yeah, we're not. He's like, once you've done your sprints, we're going to do some jumping on the boxes. And I'm like, I've had the boot off like 3 weeks, mate. And he was like, if you don't do it now, you'll never do it. So when I say sprints, I'm talking it was like a shuffle. But that gave me my confidence back because there was a couple of times where I wobbled, I fell over once. And I was like, actually, the human body is quite remarkable because my foot is re-healed.
Yeah.
So I went back to flag September that year, played my first proper game, and then I did a season last year. So the flag season runs from now to the summer because obviously it's outdoors. So at the moment, I'm not playing this year, which we'll get onto in a moment. But last year, I was determined I wanted to do a year. Right. I have a bit of OCD about me. Once I set my mind to something, I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I was competing against 20-year-old bloody kids this time last year. And I was doing all right.
Yeah.
Did all right, yeah. Went up to Glasgow in the January. There's like a big, massive tournament that the Scottish national team run. I absolutely loved that. So it was like a full, you were there Saturday, Sunday, scored a couple of touchdowns against Premier League opposition, which I felt like the boy or. There was some footage captured. And I wasn't the best flag footballer, don't get me wrong, but I certainly wasn't the worst. But I've stepped away at the moment with some of the stuff I've got on in my life.
Why have you stepped away?
So I went to San Francisco, which I'm sure we'll get onto, last November. Being a bit nervous, I stepped away from the flag football. End of October, I thought, I'm not going to go. In case I get injured, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And then I've just not gone back.
Right.
Me and the missus joined the gym in January. So to be honest, got a few questions for you because I'm still a bit of a rookie.
Right.
So we want to kind of get back into it properly. So, supplements, protein. And from watching these shows, I know you kind of, I would say, know your stuff. You seem quite knowledgeable on that matter.
I'm a fan of the gym. I think that's as far as it goes. I'm a fan. I have interest in it,
So because we don't get as much free time, I decided that me and Tracy decided to join the gym, but we didn't do it in January because that's when everyone joins the gym.
Yeah.
So we joined the gym a month ago, Spartan Lodge up near us, a couple's gym, and kind of training together. It's working quite well. I know they always say those that train together, stay together, but she's a total gym novice as well. So we've signed up. The guys give us a program. We go 3 times a week, and about a month in, I'm feeling all right.
Have you noticed any improvements since you've been going to the gym in anything that you do?
Yeah, I think so. I did that Ninja Warrior yesterday, which I did not know I was doing till I woke up. That was hard.
What are you doing, strength training or cardio?
Yeah, strength training. So I don't need any more cardio. So she's going to kill me, but I'm going to share another stair machine. So Tracy isn't great on cardio. So there's a setting on there called fitness.
Right.
So she did that the other day. It just came up poor. So she went, go on, you have a go. I was like, no, I'll be all right. Because I thought, I'll be average good. Anyway, it goes on, does the 7 minutes. Excellent. So she was like, just showing off now. I said, but I've played a lot of football. I've done a lot of running.
Yeah.
So it was measuring your VO2 max. I knew I didn't have any problems with that. That's what the trainer said. So he's got me on doing strength at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you said from school you were running. You've always been active. So, yeah. Sometimes, some people don't have to train and they've just got a good base level, really. But it's mainly in boys you find that, mainly in males. It might be different now. But you know what? I have heard through this story, which was very interesting, I haven't got to the point of where does the American football come into it then? At what point in that story have you decided, because it's quite unusual.
Yeah, it is. No.
It's quite unusual. You're the first person I've spoke to that's into it, that's English. You know what I mean? Like, I've never, going back to my school years, through my college years, through my working life, I've never came across anybody that's into it. How has it come about?
It's getting quite big in Darlington, so...
How did you get interested?
So like everybody else, 16, 17, banging into me football, played football. When I got the job at the secondary school in Eastbourne, I noticed there was your Man United, your Liverpool, your rivalries, and I had to be neutral.
Right.
Because I was trying to get these kids together. And by that time, I got bored of going to the pub on a Friday, Saturday and watching the football. I got bored of the tribalism, and I actually got bored of the game. I was one of those people that liked to play football, but fell out of love with watching it. So my little girl was born in 2011, 2012, and I used to do the night feeds.
Right.
So I woke up one night, Channel 4 had the rights for American football, and I remember flicking through the telly, and this game came on. Knew nothing about it. I'll be honest, I was the first, like everyone else, to think, American football? Isn't it just stop and start? It's too long. And then I moved that week to social services, and there was a lad there who was banging it was American football. So, first day in a new job. I was laughing the other week because Ben was saying, whenever I meet someone who doesn't like football, the red flags are starting. I was thinking, that's me now. You come and work at my work, and you're like, all right, Paul, I'm a Newcastle supporter. I'm like, all right, San Francisco 49ers, American football. And people are like, you don't like our football. So he was... I get this wrong, a Bears fan from Chicago. So a big lad, banging it was American football. And I was like, I've watched a bit. Ironically, that Monday night, the 49ers were playing the Bears. And he said, look, watch the game, properly watch the game, and come into work the next day and talk to me about it. Now, what he hadn't told me, Dan, was because the 49ers are on the West Coast.
Is the guy called Chris?
No, Mike was the name.
Thought I knew somebody there.
Basically, the West Coast teams play at really 1 a.m. and the game doesn't finish till 4 or 5. So I'd already committed to this, as I said to you earlier, bit of OCD. Once I commit to something, so I stays up and watch this game. Now, if I say the name Colin Kaepernick, does that mean anything to you?
No.
Okie dokie. He's a bit controversial. That's why I thought that. So Colin Kaepernick was our quarterback at the time. African-American. He was what's called a mobile quarterback. So traditionally, your Tom Brady's get the ball, they throw it. When I started watching, Colin Kaepernick was one of these quarterbacks that would get the ball and run. And it was kind of like a new thing. And I was like, oh man, this is amazing. This kid's brilliant. So the next day, I went to work. I was going through the corn mill. And I think it's JD Sports now. I don't know what it was. It was a sports shop still. And they had a bargain basement bucket outside with caps. All American football caps. And on the top was a red Niners cap. £5. I thought, I've got an opportunity to wind my mate up here. Cap on. Strutted into the office the next day. And he's like, oh, you've made your decision. And I was like, well, if I'm going to support a team, I can't support the team that you support. I've got to support a different team. And that's Colin Kaepernick there. So number 7. So if you go to the top, that one there you clicked on there. So the reason this is controversial is, remember the Black Lives Matters movement? Mm-hmm. Kaepernick was a massive supporter of that. Now, I love the American razzmatazz, so I'm not going to upset anyone here. If you go to an NFL game, the start's amazing. You know, they do the flyover, they've got the American flag, they've got the national anthem. When we went in November, we had to take our hats off because we had a couple of Americans in our group.
Right.
But Kaepernick and a few of the others took a knee during the national anthem. I think it was in Trump's first year as president.
Right.
And basically,
and what did this say?
So that one there where they were taking a knee. So normally before a game, like when you watch England play and they all stand for the national anthem, they all stand up. That's what an American football team does. But these decided to what's called take the knee.
As a show of respect to the Black Lives Matter thing.
And it didn't go down very well in America, is the short answer to the question. Now, Kaepernick was the reason I'm a Niners fan. Year I started watching the team, Dan, they got the Super Bowl and they actually lost. So I worked at Dalton Town Hall. The Super Bowl finished at 5 a.m. I stayed up, watched the team get beat. I'm walking to work the next day, Niners hat on, and these kids go up in the QE, start heckling me from across the road. And I'm like, your team's got beat. And he's me like, who you talking to, you? And I thought, if I'm arguing with people about the team, and from that moment on, I've never missed a game.
No way. But the love for the San Francisco 49ers, it came from you just spotting a hat.
Basically, from watching, so doing the night feed, flicking through, 1, 2 in the morning, seeing a game. I had a bit of a loose interest as a kid, but nothing major. And then obviously working with someone. So again, to get your punning people like us, going to work in that office, if I hadn't met that lad and he hadn't really talked to me about football, and then I wanted something to bond with because he didn't do anything other than American football. And we were going for breaks together. We were like sat in office 8 hours a day. And he was like, I like American football.
That was his crack.
That was it.
Yeah.
So I did chuckle when Ben was like, I don't like anyone who doesn't do football, because that's me now. I'm like you. I have my father-in-law is a big Borough fan. Lads in the office support. I can go on Sky Sports News and I can read an article. I keep up to date with the scores.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you like England played last night. I couldn't tell you the score. Couldn't tell you the lineup.
No.
And I'm not interested in that.
Do you know? I'm a huge football fan. I used to be, but I don't get it now. It seems like not productive to sit and watch a football game because I can get the same result as the next man by just checking the score and that's it. Done. I now know what the score was. Same. I monitor everything. You asked me, England lost 1-0 to Brazil, right, Southpaw?
Yeah.
That fella who plays for Real Madrid scored, right?
Oh, Vinicius Jr.
Yeah. See what I mean? So I know all this, but I saved myself 2 hours there.
Yeah.
So I know everything there is to know. I know we played
but then,
bad.
like last night, it was a really good game. We brought it back in the last minute and it was 2-2.
So the thing you say that, so there's a new lad started my work, big Liverpool fan, as a Sunderland fan. They have loads of banter. And I thought, you know what? I've got to get in the crack. So I think it was Barcelona, Atletico Madrid on ITV4 the other night.
Right.
Bored to tears, switched it off. Went to work next day and was like, because they wind me up because they try to watch the Super Bowl. One thing I like about the American football is the season September to February. So at the moment, there's no American football on.
Right.
My missus should be happy about that, but there's no off-season in the NFL, as you'll see with the content creating, which we'll get onto. But the actual games, they only play 18 games regular season, then they play the playoffs, then they play the Super Bowl. And what I like about it, there's only one team wins.
Right.
So my team, unfortunately, lost the Super Bowl this year, which I don't know if you were going to get onto.
So basically, in American football, it's just an annual knockout competition, basically.
So yeah, there's 32 teams. They're split into divisions of 4. So there's the NFC, there's the AFC, and basically the best team in the AFC plays the best team in the NFC, and that's the Super Bowl. Now, unfortunately for me, the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, don't know if you've heard that name, he's like a superstar quarterback. So my team have lost all 3 Super Bowls that they've played in my time as a fan. Right. The first one was in 2012 to the Ravens. Then we lost in 2020 when COVID started to the Chiefs. And then we lost this year to the Chiefs. But I don't know, with doing your homework, if you saw the Super Bowl party we had this year was unreal.
Yeah, I've seen some of these parties. To be honest, the American football thing, this podcast is a lesson as well as, because I don't know anything about American football. I want to. I love the visual. When you see, it just seems so like, I don't know, it just seems so much better than our game. If I'm looking at American football, if I'm being honest, it seems so colourful and so bright and so like, but I haven't got a clue what's going on that field. I couldn't tell you what's going on. But just what you just said, yeah, about these things, the meets. I was going to ask you about them. That's a meet, right?
The meet up, yeah. So if you wanted to get into American football, what I would say is when the season starts in September, on a Sunday night, for someone as productive as you, Sunday might be the best way. Basically, from 5:45 on a Sunday till 2 in the morning, I'm sat in front of the TV and I'm watching American football. I get away with it because I don't do other sports. So that's the understanding I have with my partner. NFL Sundays, it's called in our house. So I'm either watching it at home or I'll go out and do meetups, which we'll get to in a minute. But if you think of Match of the Day, you watch Match of the Day on a Saturday and it's all the highlights. The NFL do something called Red Zone. So at 6 p.m. on a Sunday, think of Match of the Day but live, and you were only watching every time there was a goalmouth scramble, or every time there was a goal, or every time there was a team attacking. None of the other passing it around the back. It's called Red Zone. The lad who hosts it, called Scott Hansen, he sits in front of the camera for 7 hours, doesn't take a break. It's commercial free. And a lot of people fall in love with American football because they watch this. It's really good. The downside of watching it that way is then when you pick a team and you watch a game lasts about 3.5 hours. Now, technically, an American football match only lasts for 60 minutes. It's 4 quarters, 15 minutes. But think of English football. So think of every time the ball went out of play, they stopped the clock. So every time we went out for a throw-in, stop the clock. Every time we went out for a goal kick, stop the clock. That's what happens in American football.
Right.
So it becomes a game of 4D chess because you need to manage the clock. Sometimes it's not good enough scoring because you leave too much time on the clock.
Right.
And you've got to manage all these different things. You can call timeouts. You can score on defense. You can score on attack. But I would describe it as a 4D chess match. And for someone who isn't violent and who doesn't do mixed martial arts or anything, it's such a violent game, American football.
Yeah. Well, who do you think's harder, rugby players or American footballers?
From watching
Who's
it,
tougher?
I'd say American footballers. From what I say, if you look, the Americans are really good, aren't they, at sport, being elite. If you think these are top athletes who are trained to smash into you and they're running into each other at 30, 40 miles an hour on every single play. It's unbelievable. That's why I said I wouldn't do contact.
No.
Someone passed the ball to me, you can have it back. But it's just such the way you can score. I mean, the team I support, the 49ers, when I first started supporting them, they were one of the better teams. And then 2016, 2017, 2018, we were terrible. I was getting up at like 2 o'clock in the morning to watch my team lose. I knew we'd lose. We then got a new manager in 2018. He's one of the... Think of Pep Guardiola, he's called Kyle Shanahan. He was a young offensive coach. And we're one of the more attacking teams in American football, which makes it very
exciting.
Easy to watch. Yeah, very exciting.
I get that. So this, the 49ers Faithful UK.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So when you become an NFL fan in the UK, it's quite a lonely existence at first.
I imagine.
So you're not watching the games live. They do have games in London, but I'll be honest, I've never been. A couple of reasons. The Niners came over in 2013, but my little girl was only like 6 months old. And I remember thinking, I've only been watching this sport 6 months. I'll go next year. They've never come back.
Right.
We'll get onto that in a moment. And basically the international games in London, every fan goes down. So, you might have the 49ers playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. But if you look in the stands, all 32 teams represented. It's like a big day out. But going to London's not cheap.
So do American teams come and play in London?
Yeah. It's so they're trying to grow the game. So the Niners at the moment, jumping all over, we have the UK marketing rights. So the San Francisco 49ers own the UK marketing rights for the UK. They've bought Leeds United. And obviously we're going to get onto the tie-in with our little fan group, which is amazing.
When you say they've bought the rights, what, all NFL rights?
So the NFL do market in the UK, but they want the Niners to be like the UK's team. So we've got what's called the UK marketing rights. There was a thing, if you Google NFL international marketing rights, I think there's like 18 countries around the world. So I think Kansas City Chiefs have got Germany, someone's got Ireland, and they're really... They're not daft, the Americans. All doing money. I mean, look at me. I'm decked out here today.
Oh, yeah.
All in Niners gear. I only ever wear Niners gear.
Right.
It's a running joke in our house. And it's not cheap.
I can imagine. It looks the business like.
So it's all pretty good. But
yeah, so that first launched in 2022, the Global Markets Programme Awards. And it's all to build awareness and fandom beyond the US through engagement, events and commercial opportunities.
So there's a massive push to... take it out of America and spread it.
I think it was 2007 when they came over for the first international series game. So 2012, I decided, I'm watching the American football, goes on social media. So I set Twitter up, or X as it's now called, purely for American football.
Right.
And I found out a lot of the content creators that I follow now. I was sat at home watching the games, tweeting. And then I found Facebook. And I joined a group called the NFL Brits Union. And it was basically fans from... every team, every Sunday, there'd be a game day thread, and you'd go on, you'd have a bit of banter. And in 2016, when my marriage ended, they had a meet up in Glasgow. So, when you say you should never meet people off the internet?
Yeah.
Well, what's the worst that can happen? I'm 36. Agrees to go watch the Super Bowl up in Glasgow. Right. And I get to this hotel in Glasgow, and I meet this guy that I'm sure he's a serial killer. Pretty much, I thought, what on earth am I doing here? Like, absolutely, he wasn't right in the head.
Right.
Then I get to this place in Glasgow, and I was naive enough to think the English accent, got a bit of heat off some of the locals who were saying, like, Englishmen here and all the rest of it. But I really enjoyed watching a game in a pub. And I thought, surely there must be something there for the Niners. So then I stumbled across the 49er Faithful UK on Facebook. So it is what it says on the tin, Dan. It's basically a Facebook group for 49ers fans. So it's just somewhere we meet, somewhere we talk, where we share stories, photos. And
it's just an online group.
It's just an online group, yeah. In 2018, I went down to Manchester and met, again, getting on the train, meet a bunch of strangers off the internet. And the second I walked in the sports bar in Manchester, so Lee Gowland, who's one of my best friends now, he's the president of the group. And the second I met that man, I thought, yeah, this is a piece of me, this group. He's Easington lad, Sunderland supporter, 50 now, he was 50 last year. He's just such a nice temperament, and he was like welcoming, and I think there was 8 of us. And I was like, what can I do to help? So he was like, well, I'm actually struggling with the social media side of the group. Have you got any experience? And I said, well, I've got a phone.
Yeah.
I'm on Twitter.
Yeah.
So he handed over the password to the Twitter account. And as I was saying to Southpaw at the start, I'm going to sound big-headed, but maybe I need to be. Once I took over the Twitter account, we just skyrocketed.
Does this have something to do with the increase in engagement that you got?
Yeah, I mean, in 2022, when I was laid up with my Achilles, we had like 3 million impressions on Twitter.
Right.
And I was just a 42-year-old bloke with an iPhone at home,
right,
just being able to tweet. And I seem to have a knack of talking to people. So the American content creators would then invite me on their shows. I was coming back. Instead of coming face-to-face like this, you go on StreamYard or Zoom, and then I was getting more following. And then we've got the flag, which I've brought, which we'll show in a minute. The flag's took on a life of its own. And then we decided to do meetups in person. So in 2019, we got a sports bar in Edinburgh. And we went up there, and Rangers Celtic were playing in a cup final.
Right.
So we walked in this bar at like 4:30 thinking, oh, crap, there's no way we're getting American football on the telly. Anyway, the game finished at like 6:55. And then they put the American football on. And we had 2 fans from America. So we're the 49ers. and we were playing the New Orleans Saints, and 2 Saints fans were in Edinburgh on their honeymoon. They found us on social media. Can we come and watch the game with you guys? We were like, yeah, of course you can.
They were from the opposing team, though.
So it was one of those games where you were talking about the England game the other night. So we won 48-46. We won with a last-second field goal, but it was one of those games, back and forth, the atmosphere in the bar. I think there was about 35 Niners fans, 2 Saints fans, but they went back across the pond and were like, these guys were great. So we started noticing an increase in American people reaching out and asking, when are you doing these next meetups? So then we were like, we had plans to go over to America in 2020 because the Niners were playing 2 games in New York, but then bloody COVID hit. So all that got stopped. And then in 2022, we get an email off the 49ers.
Huh.
Now, I'll be honest.
Directly off them?
I thought it was a spam at first.
Right.
So we get this email in. So obviously there's a few of us in the admin group. So Lee rings me and he's like, this is genuine. The 49ers want to meet with us. So you can imagine, I don't know, if you're a Newcastle fan, you imagine, you're in a Newcastle fan group and you get an email saying the club want to meet with you.
Buzzing.
So we goes on this Zoom call. I'll name drop him because he doesn't mind. Nick Clark, fan engagement officer from the 49ers, absolute legend. So he's like, right, guys, this is what we want. We want to include you guys. Tell us how we can get this thing up and running. So we explain to him that we do these meetups. What happens is we get a fixture. We used to poll the group. So because everyone's from all over. So say, for example, we knew that December the 15th, the Niners run at 6:00. We'd put a poll in the group, where do you want to go? And if Newcastle got the most votes, we'd contact the sports bar Newcastle and we'd go. So we've done like Edinburgh, Manchester.
When you say you contact the sports bar, what you mean? You contact them, say, can you shut this place down for us?
Just basically, yeah.
Do they always say yeah?
Well, the good thing is, American football, it's on a Sunday. So you're not impacting on the Premier League normally.
No.
So you think of a sports bar and we're saying, we've got this group on Facebook,
Sunday
on
night
Twitter,
as well, right?
Sunday night, we'll do all the marketing. And they were a bit nervous at first. They were a bit like, that's our page there. So that one was last January 22. I'm there in the middle of my gold shirt. I like to stand out, Dan.
Yeah. That's what you're a mile off, yeah.
So, they were normally all right. So to be fair, the Niners were like, right, well, we've bought Leeds United. Can we set something up for you in Leeds? So we were like, yeah. So the 2022 season, week 1, 6:00 kickoff, game 1. We were like, boom. The box in Leeds, sports bar, the Niners took over it. So they paid for the hire of the venue. They did all the marketing. They flew in the fan engagement team on the Thursday night. The Queen died on the Friday.
What a chew.
So we get called into an emergency meeting and the Niners are like, look, lads, we're doing this for PR purposes. Like, we're going to have to pull the plug. Now, for us, we've all booked train travel, hotels, non-refundable. Our game wasn't one of the Sky games, so the only way we could watch that game was with permission of the 49ers, which without that. So I've never been great at my poker face. So it goes on this Zoom call. Lee runs his own company. He's a lot more professional. I'm just sat there absolutely fuming, thinking, how are we going to break the news to the group? Now, this is where my love for Nick Clark started. So he was like, right, lads, well, obviously I won't be there officially, but if yous are still going, I mean, if I happen to be walking past the bar, maybe we can sort something out. Now, I clocked onto this straight away. Lee didn't clock onto this, so straight away I'm like, he's saying he's coming. So we still went ahead with the meet-up. So we get to Leeds, we get off the train, we're all decked out in those jerseys there.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't realise that Leeds' big rivals Manchester United. So I've got some gifts which I'll explain in a moment for you guys. Manchester United's primary colour is red.
Yes.
The 49ers' primary colour is red. Now, unfortunately, the Niners did try to push the away colours on us as white. But we were like, I have got the white jerseys, but when you're out drinking and eating, you don't want to be wearing white. Anyone with an England shirt will tell you that. So we rocks up at Leeds on the Sunday afternoon, all decked out in like red and gold. And the train guy was hilarious. So you get off the train at Leeds, you're all scanning on. He was like, where are you lads from? I was like, oh, well, I'm from Darlington originally. He's from Easington. He's from Manchester. He's from Liverpool. He's like, what are you doing in Leeds on Sunday afternoon wearing what you're wearing?
Yeah.
We've come to watch the San Francisco 49ers play the Chicago Bears. he was like, what, Ellen Road? We were like, no. On the telly.
On the telly.
In a bar. And so Nick Clark turns up. I can share this story now because it's out there.
Yeah.
Apparently, he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to tell anyone he was there.
Right.
By half-time, he's on the table with his top off, swinging his top round, videoing us all. So they love the way we support our sports teams, is what I'm building up to.
Right, yeah.
So the fact that we're in a sports bar in Leeds, we're chanting, we're singing songs, that we're videoing it. So that was the first official meet-up.
Right.
So he flies back to San Francisco, and then he Zoom calls us again, and he's like, yeah, I fancy a bit of this. So he puts another one on.
Right.
3 weeks later, same sports bar, same place, but this time with the Erasmus. So everybody who turned up got free items giveaway. He's on the microphone. It's very American, very much like every time there's something happening, he's on the microphone. They brought an ex-NFL player over, which was pretty surreal for me. This is the first moment of doing content creating where I asked this guy for a photograph and an autograph, and he knew who I was through the group. And he's like, no, I want a photo with you because what you do in this country is amazing. And he's taken our photo with the flag, and I'm like, this is weird. So we had that meet up. Then the one you had on the screen. So the way American football works is you get to the end of the season, then you go into the playoffs.
Right.
So you play like a couple of knockout games. So the semi-final for my team is called the NFC Championship game. Right. So short notice.
What's NFC mean?
The National Football Conference.
What's the other side?
The American Football League. So back in the early 50s and 60s, there was two.
Is it from different sides of the country?
And then they merged them. So you were talking to the MMA fighter last week, and she was talking about Bellator and UFC. Think of that, and then them two coming together.
Right, I got you.
That's what happens in the NFL. So they rang us and went, do you ever do out for the playoffs? And we were like, well, we normally have a Super Bowl party, but that's dependent on if we get the Super Bowl. And they were like, well, we've got Ellen Road if you want to come down and use Ellen Road. So they just basically opened Ellen Road on a Sunday night. Sky Sports were there. So he goes down. Lee, the president of the group, gets interviewed by Sky Sports. Unfortunately, we got beat in the semi-final. But that kind of like wet their whistle for wanting to work with us.
Right.
So we're the only fan group in the UK that has this link with our team. And then, like I said, it accumulated in 36 of us flying out to San Francisco last year. All free tickets at the game.
All free tickets?
So we had to pay for our travel, our accommodation, but...
free tickets to the game?
Yeah, there's a section at Levi Stadium called the Gold Mine.
Levi Stadium being the San Francisco 49ers.
So it's a fan invite chapter only, but I know you were big on your manifestation. So when I first started watching American football, I'll show you this now. Right. I had a screensaver on my computer, which was a stock image where you Google Levi Stadium on there, it brings it up.
Okay.
And 10 years ago, I decided, Dan, that when I go, I want a photo on my laptop, which I have taken. And that sounds stupid, but 10 years ago, I promised myself that I would do that.
Okay.
And
this
I've
picture.
done that now, yeah. So I took that picture. So that's the view.
No
so
way.
when you go to the gold mine, it's you cannot buy those seats where you are. It's a free ticket, but you work for the Niners. So you're there in your rows and you start the chanting, you get going. So as you can imagine, 36 British people going to a sports game, they want us to chant. Where's the catch?
Exactly.
And the Americans in front of us could not believe how, we had witty stories, we were singing the songs, because they're normally quite reserved.
I was going to ask you that. How do American fans compare to English fans in the way they support, or are they the same?
The danger with American football is when your team's on attack, you're supposed to be quiet.
Oh?
So when the quarterback's snapping the ball, there's a lot of like you've got your sheets there with your helmet. A quarterback will have his play card on his arm, and the head coach is in his ear. So the head coach might say, right, today, Paul, you're going to throw the ball at southpaw, but you don't want the team to know that. So they get in the huddle, and they have all these jargon, but he knows that the ball's coming to him. Mm-hmm. So the crowd has to be quiet. But when your team is defending, you have to be as loud as possible because you want to put the other team off.
Right.
So...
Huh. Right. Because it's kind of a bit like the opposite in sort of European style football. When your team's attacking, you're screaming.
Yeah.
And if another team's attacking you, you're quiet because you're thinking, shit, they're going to score.
So if you see where it says Paul Hope, if you come across there, so that guy with 74 on is called Joe Staley.
Okay.
He's a legend of the 49ers. So I know I'm jumping all over. But
he was a player?
Yeah. So they had, last year, Personally, for me, I like the meetups being in the Northeast. It's loads easier for me. But the Niners want to get London.
Right.
It's obvious. So last October, we went to London, Dan, and Joe Staley, oh my God, what a legend. So we get to this sports bar in London, me, Lee, and a couple of the others. Bear in mind, we do this for free. We're not getting paid for this, but we're the face of the group. So we get to the sports bar, we meet the Niners staff, and I'm introduced to Joe Staley. Now, I'm a little bit starstruck at this point, and he's just so down to earth, shaking my hand, and he's like, right, when the doors open, people want to meet. The point of it is you get to meet Joe, and then off in the pub you go. Now, I'm stood at the front, because I know a few of the characters in the group, make sure everything's going all right. And Joe's like, can my wife stand with you? You seem like a nice guy. Can she stand with you? I was like, yeah, no problem, mate. Everyone comes in this bar. As soon as they say hello to Joe, they're over to me, they're hugging me, they're high-fiving me, they're congratulating me on the podcast. And about 10 minutes in, Joe Staley's wife's like, I think you're more famous than my husband, do you?
Love this.
So I start laughing. So once everyone's in and the game's on the telly, they have like a VIP section for Sky Sports, Talk Sport. We just thought he was going to disappear off in there. Oh, no. Joe Staley's like, I'm in the mosh pit with you lads watching the football. And we lost that game, but my memories of that game, we were scoring touchdowns. I'm getting high fives with Joe Staley, who's he's got photos with a flag, and he was saying how much he loves the UK.
So is that kind of like watching Newcastle play with Alan Shearer this year?
Alan Shearer stood beside you, talking football with you now.
Mental.
American football, there's a big thing about fantasy football. Now, I don't know if you play fantasy Premier League, but with the American football, I find it a lot easier because say we were in a fantasy football league now with American football.
Right.
You can only pick one player at a time. So say we're in the English Premier League and you've got, who's the lad who scores all the goals for Man City? Haaland.
Yeah.
You could only have him. I can't have him. Southpaw can't have him.
Right.
So I've played fantasy football before where all three of us have got Haaland and your team captain him and it's just pointless. When you do a fantasy football in American football, only one person can have that player.
I get you.
So the bit I'm building up to is when I was off with my ruptured Achilles, I had a lot of time. I had a lot of fantasy teams. I had a spreadsheet on my laptop. I had about 50 teams, right?
You took this seriously.
Yeah.
Right.
I got invited into a tournament called the Scott Fish Bowl, which is a big charity fantasy football league, which is invite only against all these proper professional players. I didn't come last, but I didn't come anywhere near the top.
Right.
So basically, when you watch American football, on a Sunday, the games are 6, 9, and 1 in the morning. So you have to set your lineups. So I'm stood with Joe Staley, and he's on his phone. And he's like, oh, what do you reckon of this player? So I was like, oh, fantasy football, how many teams have you got? He went, just the 2. How many have you got? I went, I've only got 12 this year. And he went, 12? What do you mean 12 this year? How many do you have last year? I said, well, I'm not proud of this, Joe, but I had like 57, I think. He picks up his phone, rings one of his buddies in America, puts him on loudspeaker and is like, tell my mate how many fantasy football teams you are. And I was like, 57. And he puts the phone down and he's like, they don't understand the growth of the game in the UK. To them, they think we just watch the odd game, but to see the passion, the colours of the flag, the gear. I mean, that meet up in London, we had 500 people. We actually turned people away.
How do the American fans take to English players? Do they like sort of look down the nose at them a little bit? Like, well, you're not, real supporters because you're not American. Does any of that go on?
I've not had too much of it. Each year, the NFL sends teams over to London to play a game. We hoped it would be us last year, and it wasn't. And then this year, when they made the announcement of which teams were coming over, I put a tweet out saying, please be the Niners. And I got a lot of hate off the American football fans from America because they don't want their team to come over. So
why not?
So think if you've got a season ticket at Newcastle, how many games do you get? 20 games? Imagine Newcastle said, right, this year, lads, we're going to fly over to Dubai for this game, but you lose that off your season ticket, but you don't get any money back. So it's part of them growing the game. Now, this year, because they've made, the way they've done the fixtures, this year the Niners have 9 home games and they're supposed to only have 8. We kind of hoped that extra game, they would give it to us, but they haven't. So we're a bit disappointed, if I'm being honest.
I still can't wrap my head around why, apart from, one game that they can't go to because it's England, why would American supporters hate their teams coming and playing in different countries? Surely that's growing their club. Surely that's spreading their club more broadly, surely.
The time difference, so again...
Like, as a Newcastle United fan, if you said, you know, if you could, would you have the whole of, I don't know, pick a country, Japan, supporting Newcastle? I'd be like, yeah, because shirts, sales, it's going to increase, you know, the value of the club. It's going to, you know, result in a better club. I don't understand why they wouldn't want it to be more spread.
I think because we are 5,000 miles away, the travel can affect the players and the time difference. I'm not saying I would choose a different team, but some people do choose their NFL team on where in America. So I have a mate who's a Tennessee Titans fan. They're on the East Coast. When they get their 16 games, he has 10 of them are at 6 o'clock. He has one at 9 and he'll have one at 1 in the morning. I'll have 2 6 o'clock games. I'll have 3 9 o'clock games, and I'll have 5 1 in the mornings,
right.
Which, like...
That makes sense.
And I don't miss a game.
Right.
So there's a lot of commitment from me, family duties that I have to juggle.
Of course.
But the content creators that I work with absolutely love the fact, and when you see when you Google, some of the big ones shout us out all the time. It still blows me away. Now, Sunday night, I'm at home. One of my mates texts me and says, John Chapman, who's like the GOAT of content creating, he was with us in the goldmine. He just randomly shouted our group out. And he was like, Paul Hope, the guys at the UK, love what they're doing. You know, their podcasts are getting 2, 3, 4,000 views. You know, we're getting anywhere between 1 to 600 views. So we've still got a way to go.
Is your club the supporters group? Is your supporters group the biggest supporters group in the UK?
From what I've seen, yeah, definitely.
Is there anyone that's close rivaling, and what team are they from?
Again, with American sport, it tends to be, when I first got into it, everyone loved Tom Brady. So there was a lot of New England Patriot fans. Tom Brady was arguably one of the best players. He was a quarterback who's won quite a lot.
He played for the Patriots.
Yeah. And then, like you said, at the moment now, you'll probably see a lot of Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. So I would say all 32 teams are well represented, but doing the stuff that I do, I confidently can say that the 49er Faithful UK is the only one that has the engagement that we have. You know, we've got 3,000 members on Facebook. So every Sunday when there's a game on, we'll do a game day thread. We've got the podcast twice a week, which has hit 50,000 downloads. The meetups are going from strength to strength. The flags. So Lee does the flags. I brought that because I want a photo with you at the end with the flag. He does these non-for-profit. So literally, like, he's found a company that'll do them. And then if there's 20 orders coming, he doesn't make any money off them. Right. We've got patches, which I brought to show you, which we iron on our clothes. Again, they cost him £2. He charges you £2. But this flag has taken a life of its own. Like, the Americans absolutely love. And I brought this because I thought it would link in nicely with the controversy of the England football shirt.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't like colours being changed on the flag. I make no apology for that.
What's wrong with that? Are you not allowed to change colours on a flag? Like,
a few people in the last few days that I've seen on social media have got really upset.
Why? What about what? I don't get it.
So the England football shirt have got the flag on the back.
Okay.
So I don't know whether it's some people being joking, but I've seen, like, you shouldn't mess around. And like, say, if you Google us 49er Faithful UK, the Americans love the fact that I think it's a respect thing. We've took we've took the Union Jack.
Of course.
And we've put our spin on it, and we've put a Niners logo in the middle.
That's the Niners colours, right?
That's the Niners colours, yeah.
Of course, they're not going to have red, white and blue. It's not their colours, is it? I don't have a problem with that. Do you, Southpaw?
I think it's bang on.
I think it's bang on. What's this thing with the England shirt like? What was that about?
I'll be honest with you, when I first saw it on Twitter, I Googled it and I was like, oh, 3 lines are on the badge.
Huh.
But apparently on every England shirt there's a St. George's flag.
Yeah.
And they've got it on the collar. I think it's where that Gordon one is there.
Oh, yeah.
Or that one there, yeah. Basically, a lot of people are unhappy because they've put that on instead of the St. George's flag. Now, I have a couple of mates who were joking on with the whole, you're outrageous, you, Paul, you've changed the Union Jack colours. But I knew it was a bit of a joke. But then I was like, we live in a day and age, Dan, where you think, do we need to be aware of this? Like, are people going to complain about this? So I had a bit of fun on Twitter with it.
Right.
And the feedback I've got is, no, you've got nothing to worry about.
I wouldn't have thought. I mean, you've got to really, really be stuck for things to do to have a problem with that, haven't you?
Yeah,
like,
you do.
Your life's got to be fairly empty. You know, there's not a lot going on in your world if that's what you're bothered about.
But I guess with obviously it not being massively common for a UK person to follow the NFL, you are going to get your controversy over the years, especially with such a big engagement. How do you sort of deal with that? You know, you will get a fair amount of it, I'd imagine.
We've got a very good admin team. There's 12 of us give up our time. So it's not like Lee Gowland calls all the shots. Officially, I'm the vice president of the group because Lee's gone a bit more professional with it. We've got the trademark for the 49 Faithful UK now. You know, we pay for all our own costs. So the StreamYard license, which we use, the 4 content creators, we split that by 4. So we don't charge any of the members.
What's a StreamYard license? What's that?
So, you know, you've got Teams, you've got Zoom. We use StreamYard.
Right.
It's just the tool that we use to record our podcasts.
Okay.
And it costs like £200-300 a year. So the 4 of us just chip in for that license and then we control. So we don't ask for any money from the group. But I resonated with your story because this time last year we'd started and I like to set myself targets. And I was like, right, I want 1,000 subs by the end of the season. And like coming up to the Super Bowl week, we had like 980, 981. Then they'd drop, then they'd go up. And like on Super Bowl Sunday, we hit 1,000. So if you're trying to monetize, anything over 500 subs is what you need. And you need 3,000 watch hours. So we've got the 1,000 subs now and we're so close to the watch hours. Now, if we do make money from this, we've already told the group it'll go to cover the costs and it'll go to, we'll start doing giveaways, signed merchandise, jerseys.
And this is through putting your podcast on YouTube, right?
Yeah. So
that's not bad. Within a year, you built up 1,000 subs.
Yeah, and we've done it properly, word of mouth, you know, the audio-only pods serve a purpose. I like a podcast like the next man. I like put my headphones in when I'm walking the dog.
Brilliant.
But when I started dipping my toe in lockdown into the YouTube stuff, so one of the things I was worried about today, you were going to ask me if I had a name badge on, and I was thinking, well, what do I say? Because I don't do this to get paid. My girls think it's hilarious that I'm a YouTuber, and I'll hear them boast about it to their friends and how many views I've got. And you must have heard about the Taylor Swift and Kansas City Chiefs.
I've heard something.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not
Taylor
sure I understand
Swift,
it.
basically, her boyfriend plays for the Chiefs. We were playing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So tongue-in-cheek, I told my 2 stepdaughters that Taylor Swift was banned in our house. And that went down like a lead balloon. And one night before I went on a pod, they were winding me up by playing it. So I said, if you don't turn it off, I'm going to point at the camera and I'm going to name drop you.
Right.
And I did.
Love
but they
that.
thought it was absolutely hilarious and, you know, showing all their friends and stuff. So to them, if you ask them, they would say I'm a YouTuber. I've wrestled with this, but I would say I'm more of a content creator because I don't just do the stuff on YouTube. We do the stuff in person. We do the meetups. We do the audio pods. But I really pushed for us to go onto YouTube because I could see there was a market for it. So like your show, when we do our podcast, which is the 49 Faithful UK podcast, we record it. Powers that be, edit it. I don't know how that works. Then we release it. And I was like, but the content creators across the pond go live and you can jump in the chat. Now, some of them charge for the chats. I've never really got that, but we go live. We've been doing the live show for a year and you can have all your notes ready and then you can press live and someone will come in the chat with something else and the banter's really good. And because there's not one of it like it in the UK, a lot of our group like it. So we've juggled with the day. We've focused on a Wednesday at the moment, but we go live. The Gathering of Strangers, who's a band in the UK, they've got a song called Red and Gold. They sent that to the Niners about 18 months ago and just said, we've got this song, do you want to use it? The Niners use that as, you know, like when you run out onto the field, you know, like Middlesbrough used to have that pig bag and Sunderland have all that. The Niners use Red and Gold. Right. So we were like, do you know what? You don't ask, you don't get. So we sent an email to Gathering of Strangers and said, can we use that for our podcast? And they're like, happy days, lads.
Yeah.
They come to all the meetups. They share our stuff on social media. We share their stuff. So similar to what you were saying at the start, what I find in this game, networking.
Yeah.
You know, I've started watching your show. I've started sharing that on my socials and people know I'm sharing it because I'm watching.
I appreciate that, yeah.
Jord, the comedian you had.
Yeah, man.
So Katie was one of my cohorts at Eastbourne School.
Huh.
She was my year group, Katie. So
Wow.
I was friends with Katie on Facebook when she got with Jord.
Right.
So then when I watched your show with Jord, I was like, that's so crazy. So because of seeing him on your show, I knew who he was. Hadn't watched his comedy, subscribed to his. Me and the missus have got plans, go watch, you know, because we're banging into our comedy.
Yeah.
So that's come from that. And then I shared that episode, and then I've had a couple of mates like, do you know this lad? I was like, well, kind of know him, but I kind of don't. But I wouldn't share it if I'm not watching it because I don't believe in that.
No, I agree with that. To be honest, so yes, you know your sort of podcast. Is there other American football podcasts?
Yeah,
there is for different teams.
Yeah, so I mean, there's some for the Niners. I mean, we're not the only 49ers fan group in the UK. So there's a couple of others. So when the Niners,
why don't you merge together and become one?
There's a bit of politics behind it. That was before my time.
Right.
I'm a Niners fan. I will talk to any of the Niners fans. Now, Lee Gowland, I'll give him his credit, when the Niners reached out to us and said, we want to work with you guys in the UK, he gave them a list of all the other groups. We opened the door. Some of them didn't take that opportunity, and I can't get my head around it. So some of them don't come to the meetups because it's not through their group, but they're turning down, like, the freebies are awesome. And, you know, I got to go to bloody California last year, which I never thought I would get to go.
No.
That was a bit of a crazy decision, going there, like.
How so?
Well, when it was first proposed, I wasn't going.
Why not?
Because I didn't think I could afford it.
Do you do's?
Kind of. Again, listening to your show the other week when Ben was talking about his crypto and his, paying for his flights to Florida.
Goes over my head.
In my head, you say to me, what, San Francisco? I'm thinking, right, $1,500 for flights, $500 for your hotel, spending money. And then my mate Lee texted me and he was like, you do realise your British Airways flight's like $440, and that's return from Newcastle to London, London to San Francisco. Now,
that's a lot of price.
You shared the other day that you'd only flown once on British Airways. I was the same. When I booked that British Airways flight, I felt like 007. You get the welcome email, you get the pack, and I was like...
Feels posh, doesn't it?
And because we had to fill the gold mine, you apply to join, this Niners say, right, you've got the gold mine for this game, you've got to bring 40 people. Right. If you don't bring 40 people, you don't get in. Now, Lee straight away was like, I'm going. And there was about 15 people said, yep, they'll go in. And I ummed and ahed, and then got a bit of backdated pay at work, and then I was doing the finances, and I was like, I can afford this. There was a big group. We all shared hotel rooms. Now, obviously, selling it to the missus was a little bit like, just going to fly off to San Francisco. Going to go on the Friday. I'll be back on the following Thursday. Didn't go down well at first, and she won't mind me sharing that, because obviously we met in 2018, and we always had these plans to travel together, do a lot together. But I couldn't get it out of my head that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I always regretted not going to London back in 2013.
Right.
And I always vowed if I got this chance to go again, and then what I had to think of, if I don't go, I'm going to put that TV on the Sunday night, and all my friends are going to be in the gold mine. So I just decided to take the plunge and go.
It'd make you feel sick, wouldn't it? You know, knowing that you'd passed up on it.
I've never watched the game live, so we flew in on the Friday. So again, sod's law, get off the plane in San Francisco. When you think of San Francisco, do you think of sun or do you think of rain?
Sun. California.
I got off the plane, and it was absolutely pouring down. The Saturday, we went to a college football game, which was unreal. The atmosphere.
They say it's massive over there, college football.
Yeah, it was massive. Now, I'm not a drinker these days, so that side of it was lost on me. But we went to watch Stanford play, which was my first ever live American football game. It rained. Great stuff. And then on the Sunday morning, we got up, and it was beautiful. Right. It was as if the scene had been set. So I'd gone to the Golden Gate Bridge on the Saturday morning, grey, rain, because that was a bucket list item of mine.
Iconic, innit?
Oh, cloudy, got me photo. We couldn't do a podcast live from the Golden Gate Bridge because it was tipping it down. So we goes to Levi's on the Sunday, and it was just unbelievable. That was like, I had goosebumps thinking about it. I've been to Paris before, and do you know when you go to the Arc de Triomphe, if you go on the tube, you come up the escalator,
right,
and you just see the Arc de Triomphe. That at that point had been one of my most wow. You come up this little escalator, and then boom, the Arc de Triumph's just there. But when we went to the Niners, because I do the social media stuff, I'd seen there was an escalator into the ground. So I said to the lads, look, you go first, and I'll video you going up, and then I'll just keep my phone. So when I go up the escalator, I'll see it last. But I didn't know that the Niners had arranged to have their own video guy there. So when I come off the escalator, the look on my face is just like, I'm blown away. See, because when you go to the gold mine, you go into the stadium before anyone else because you're there working for the Niners. So you see, imagine going to Wembley Stadium and just seeing it absolutely empty, and you get free reign of Wembley Stadium. That's what it was like for me. Mental. And you walked round, and then there was 4 of the big content creators that I follow. They'd joined us because, again, it's an invite only, networking. They're with us, they're going to shout us out. And the whole day just went in a blur. And you've seen the photos that you've shared on there and obviously on my social media. And
yeah, it looks amazing. How did you... I've never liked watching sporting events live. I always just think it's better on the telly, for view. That's my opinion. I've been at football matches, I've been at boxing matches, etc. And yeah, the whole idea of going, it's a good idea, but you come away and you always think, no, telly you could sort of see more.
I agree. I mean, American, they do it quite well. One of the content creators, Ted Talks Ball, was sat next to me, and he was blown away that was my first ever game. And we were watching this play unfold, and basically we were on offence, so that meant we had the ball. Our quarterback was about to snap the ball, and George Kittle was one of my favourite players. He motioned across the line, and I was like, that's interesting. Nobody went with him. So Ted was like, we're running the ball. I was like, we're not. We're passing it to him all day long. I'll put money on it. Anyway, the ball gets snapped. Kittle runs, long ball over the top. Kittle catches it, and the content creator was like, you know your stuff. And I said, well, just what I saw. My first ever live game. I'm not saying I'm an expert in that, but that was another moment. And then seeing my first touchdown, all the touchdowns were our end. So imagine being behind the goal at Wembley and all the goals are scored. You couldn't write it.
No.
Some of our favourite players scored. It was an easy game. Brock Purdy, who was our quarterback, had what's called a perfect passer rating. So the Americans are big on stats. So at the end of that game, he couldn't do any better. All his passes were where they should be.
Just immaculate.
And you just think this was the only thing I thought at that time is we're winning the Super Bowl this year, because how awesome would that have been? I'd have been able to say my team won the Super Bowl the year that I went, but sadly it wasn't to be.
What was the score this year?
Yeah, we got beat 25-22. So again, that was awesome. I mean,
it's not a million miles
away.
The
Niners put that. So Ellen Road, opposite Ellen Road, they've got something called the Centurion Pavilion.
Right.
They opened that up to us free of charge. Big massive screen on, giveaways. 500 of us travelled from across the UK. The Super Bowl doesn't start till 11:30 on a Sunday night and doesn't finish till 5 in the morning. And you had 500 of the UK faithful. The only downside is when the lights come on. Now, I'm emotionally invested in my team, as you can tell. Spending 90 minutes here talking. But I don't let it dominate my feelings. So the Niners lost that Super Bowl. In the moment, I'm like, we've lost it. The next day, I'm doing normal family stuff. I'm not one of those people who's
letting it destroy you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do see that. I work with somebody, he'll see this, and he's a bit emotionally invested in Anthony Joshua, the boxer. Again, I won't name him, but he knows exactly who he is. And if you say a bad word about him, if he loses, he's not nice to be around. I think some people do get a bit invested in something that's entertainment.
That's why I do quite well with my take on the podcast. So a lot of the feedback I get from the community is, it's just like, you're one of the lads. You're talking to it in not an idiot's terms, but I'm not going too technical because my knowledge is still learning. So on the podcast that we do, Nadji Kara, my good friend, he's a French lad, he plays the game. His knowledge is unreal.
He plays?
He plays.
Does he?
Plays contact, yeah. So I said to you before, I don't mind sharing this. I feel like the fourth man on that podcast. So Lee's the president of the group. Gareth's the host. Gareth knows loads more. He just doesn't get a chance to talk because we're quite dominant personalities. And Nadji plays the game. So I always kind of felt like I was the fourth man. So I was quite proud a couple of years ago when I coined the awesome foursome. I did that more to keep my place in the team, if I'm being honest. And then obviously running the social media, I kind of thought I was one that could be replaceable.
Right.
And then you mentioned Let's Talk Sports, which I thought I'd give a cheeky nod to. So,
what is that?
So in lockdown, there's a gentleman called Dan Harris, who sadly is no longer with us. He was housebound, disabled, and he set up a sports network called Let's Talk Sports.
Right.
Now, it's pretty weird, given that I'd never met this man. In lockdown, anybody who wanted me to do a podcast, Dan, I was there.
Right.
Get the invite. So I went on this podcast with him. It was supposed to be a one-off, talked about the Niners fan group, and he got a lot of views. So then he emailed me back and he was like, can we do a weekly thing? I was like, yeah, no problem, buddy. So I started to do a weekly show on Let's Talk Sports, the Paul Hope Show.
Yeah.
He was diagnosed terminal and he knew he didn't have long to live. So his legacy was he wanted to set up a sports network that lasted. Now, the people who've took over, I've no bad word against them, but I was giving up my time for free for Dan Harris. I was not a problem with him earning money off my content. When Dan passed away, I decided that I wanted to honour his legacy by putting my efforts into my own channel, which is the 49 Faithful UK. And I kind of wanted to put my energy into there. So we do have a couple of members from our group who are still part of Let's Talk Sport. I'll support them. I'll have them on our show. But I don't do the Paul Hope show stuff. But that was a good exposure for me. It wasn't just American football. I would do something similar. I'd get some people on. I would talk topics. And I think it allowed me to have a bit of a presence on the camera. And it's allowed me to develop my own skill set, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and I say I've not blown your trumpet or anything, but just through watching, I am not hours deep on your stuff. I've watched, maybe an hour of bit of this, bit of that, bit of the other. And that is something that is very apparent. It's very apparent that you are incredibly comfortable in front of a camera and you seem like a natural. And that foursome thing you just said, I think, you said each one of them's got a position. And I think yours is that you're the actual podcaster. That's what I would say. I've seen them other lads, the French lad. I didn't know he was French. I knew he was from somewhere else. But they all seem like incredibly knowledgeable. But you seem to shine and stand out as the one that is more like a bit like a commentator. You know what I mean? You got a bit of a commentator type thing about you. Do you know? Where commentators just...
I have a fast working mind, and when we do the live show last year, the first lad who did it with me, he didn't feel comfortable hosting. So I hosted, and then he stepped away for various reasons. And we're kind of going through a bit of a transition at the moment, but similar to how you are now, it comes out. I laugh because I have a notepad, pen and paper. All the lads laugh at me. Why don't you do it on your laptop? When I'm at home and I'm on StreamYard, my laptop is up, the microphone's on, the headphones on. I do not touch that laptop because I just have visions of it going wrong. So all my notes are pen and paper. I must have done hundreds of podcasts. I still write hi guys, welcome to the 49 Faithful UK. I still write it down and I have it there just in case, even as such as I'm your host, Paul Hope. How am I going to forget my own name kind of thing? But it's just how I do it, and I don't think I'll ever move away. So I do enjoy when I've watched the shows and I've seen you with your pen and paper. I think it's quite
So I'll tell you a pattern that I've learned though through doing this, and pretty much it never gets used.
No, but it's good to have it there.
Yeah, it's a comfort thing that I know there's stuff there, but what I've noticed through yourself, through everyone we've had, it never goes how I think it is. It always ends up different. So there's not really much point in the notes. Do you know, it's just a comfort thing.
The lad who hosts our show, Gareth, he hosts the podcast. I had him on the live this week, and he was a guest, and he was really nervous because when we do the pods, they're very structured. In season, we do a preview of the game. So we'll look at, if the Niners were playing the Chiefs this Sunday, we do a pod and we talk about our strengths, their strengths. We make some bold predictions, which is quite funny. Yeah. And then we review the game. It's very structured. You know what you're going to talk about. So when Gareth was coming on the live this week, he was like, what are we going to talk about? I was like, don't worry about what we're going to talk about. We're going to go live and go with the flow. And I found in my experience, if it's too scripted, I mean, I say that. Definitely. I've been preparing for this today. There's 1,000 questions I thought you might ask me. And yet we've talked about Branksome School. We've talked about Darlington.
Yeah. It never goes how you think it's going to go. That's what I have noticed. And you have made a valid point there. You're better off just free flowing, really, most of the time. Sometimes it can sound quite, scripted or boring because you're just reading off a piece of paper. What's the future of the 49 Faithful UK? Where's this going to go? What would you like? What's your vision for it? Because you're a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the tie-in with Leeds. I mean, the ultimate dream would be if the Niners said, right, Paul, we're going to employ you full-time. We're going to, invest into this. That's the ultimate dream. I don't know if I can ever make that work. This year's goal, I want to double the subscriptions to 2,000. I want to do more meetups. So we used to do one meetup a year, and then the Niners took over. So the official meetups are always, everybody wants to go to the official ones. But if we get so many 6 o'clock games, I tend to go and arrange one at Stockton. So I don't expect people who live in Brighton to travel up to Stockton, but there's a few of us who live in the North East. And I was going to say that hopefully, if we keep in contact, I'd love to invite you to a meetup.
Yeah.
For you to come and see the atmosphere, and equally you can kind of promote what you do, and you'll be surprised when people talk about podcasts. And that's why I got in the thing at the start. For me, this is a show.
Right.
I don't watch normal telly.
No, same's.
So I want to see the group grow and grow. I mean, because the team are doing well. we obviously do well. I mean, we had a podcast a couple of weeks ago and it had like nearly 700 views. I was absolutely blown away. Now, I don't do this for the views. Similar, you always make me chuckle when you say, to our 3 viewers at home. Yeah. And I'm sitting there thinking, you've got 78 views on this video that I'm watching. And likewise, you'll have probably noticed, whoever runs the channel, I've started to comment a lot more on your videos because for me, that helps your algorithm and it helps keep it in mind as well.
Right.
So if people are watching this back, do throw a like, throw a comment. It does help.
I'm clueless. It's all Southpaw, this.
Yeah.
It? You know?
No, it does go a long way. I think the big thing for us, we are just trying to do it organically. And as you were saying earlier, massively networking, that's what we've found.
What's a non-organically way? What is that?
Paid promotion.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people. So, like for us, I could go home tonight and say, right, I've got this signed Joe Montana jersey. Right. Please subscribe to the channel and I'll do a giveaway when we reach 2,000. So loads of people create loads of YouTube accounts. You hit your 2,000, you do your giveaway, and the next day, those 2,000 disappear.
Right.
Because they've got the giveaway, they're unsubscribed. That was one of the criticisms of Let's Talk Sports. Dan was trying to create a network 24/7. So if you subscribe to Let's Talk Sports, it was a bit messy. There was loads of content on there. It was just messy. You were getting notifications on your phone all the time. So that's another way when you say running it organically. One thing that we haven't done, and I'm copying a little bit off yous, is Lee used to run the Instagram channel. Instagram is probably up there now, along with Twitter. Shorts, you'll probably find a lot of people will come to your channel because of the short videos you put on Instagram.
It's all Southpaw, this.
Instagram, I'm deciding. So we've decided that the Instagram, if we have an aim where we want someone to go to every game. So when the fixtures
from your group,
from our
faithful,
group.
Yeah?
So last year we had pretty much someone from the group at every game. And some of the content creators will fly the flag. So if you were going to the game with Southpaw, I'll give you the flag. I just want you to send me a photo and I'll put it on our Instagram because the Instagram account is for the community. It's not my personal page. The Twitter account, I have my own Twitter account and I run the 49er Faithful UK Twitter account. I can pretty much do with that what I want. Lee's let me have free reign of that because I've grown. But it was easy for us because the 49ers fan base, and I say easy, we're very active on social media.
I've noticed.
The 49ers, like, without boring you and going down the rabbit hole, quarterback is the most important position in football. Yeah. We've struggled at quarterback last few years and there's been a lot of controversial takes. So you were talking football, who's better, Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, you go down Gerrard, Lampard, Torres, all that kind of talk.
Yeah.
You can go on 49ers Twitter and you can drop a controversial comment and your impressions will go through the roof.
Really?
Yeah. And I suppose where I do quite well is the time difference. So 8 p.m. UK is 12 noon in California. So the big content creators have cottoned on. There's a market over here. And because they are very complimentary about me, they'll shout us out because I'll direct people their way as well. So I'm not competing with them for the same views because when they're on at 6 o'clock, it's like 3 a.m. here, 2 a.m. We ain't doing that.
No.
But I am very active on social media within the content creators. I don't do other sports. I literally do the NFL.
Solely this?
Solely the NFL, yeah. I'm reading articles, I'm watching podcasts. But in the last 18 months, to answer your question a different way, I'm trying to develop my own skill set a little bit more.
Okay.
So I've really enjoyed getting to know, coming here, it's a bit of a fanboy moment. I felt like it's about, I know Southpaw and I know you, like friends, but you don't know who I am. And I get that. The Niners community at Leeds, every single person who come through the door, thanks for all your work you do for the group, Paul. Thanks. And you're thinking, I don't know your name. How do you know who I am? And the girls still get blown away by that.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've taken from your show, my missus is very happy, I did not have screen time activated on my phone. Because I'll be honest,
didn't want to know.
And then it was a few weeks ago that I watched it and you were all winding each other up about it. And I thought, I'll turn it on because I do have to invest in my relationships outside of the 49ers. And when I checked it yesterday, I was really surprised that my screen time was only 2 hours.
That's really good.
Was unbelievable. Given I run the social media.
That's really good.
Given that I just watched the episode where Ben was like 9 hours, and I think you said, do you not even talk to your Mrs. Ben? And I had me howling. But I have the earphones in and I'm watching a podcast and I'll start laughing. And the girl's like, what are you laughing at? I was like, you wouldn't understand.
That's 2 hours I don't know how you've managed that.
Honestly, Tracy would not believe it when she watches this back because one thing that I did do last year, which I think you'll resonate with, we went on our first family holiday to Tenerife. because of lockdown and stuff.
Yeah.
And I promised Tracy I wouldn't be on my phone. And I'll be honest, I was that guy on the plane.
No.
I was like literally switched it off and I gave it to her. And do you know what? I absolutely loved that week. It was amazing. Like a week off. So then we came back home and 4 days later we flew out to Mallorca because the girls were going to Mallorca with their dad. We went to an adult-only hotel. Really nice. Some alone time.
Did I see you in Magaluf?
To be honest, we possibly because... so the girls were staying in Palma Nova. We were staying in Santa Ponza.
Right.
And we went to watch the pirate show.
Right.
And when we did our daft selfie, it came up Magaluf. So I said, I've got to post this. The lads will be like, partying in Magaluf, you don't even drink. And we did go for a walk down the strip and then we got a taxi back. But again, so I had another week off my phone and I've tried to take that a little bit now.
Yeah, man.
Because we've put all of the hard yards in with the group. If you went on Twitter now, when you went on the 49 Faithful UK, we don't tweet a great deal at the moment because I don't need to.
No.
And that's a lesson that I learned, that like you can always be on your phone. Like Ma Tracy will tell you, there's always something to talk about. And I always laugh, and she's right. But then, does it matter if I don't break the news every single time?
No.
And because we've got that well run in the group now, other people are sharing the news, but... Ben, if you're watching, get off your phone. That's what I wanted to say.
It's right, like 9 hours is ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, I think, what were you at? You were at like 6.5 or something?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really big on social media and stuff. I think that's watching podcasts and
I must
YouTube.
admit, I watch the pods on my laptop rather than my phone.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that has an impact.
I hope it does. I hope that's why mine's so large, you know? It isn't. I can't explain why that would be 9 hours.
I think mine was like 4.5, and he was like having me head off because he was like, "And you're meant to be our social media manager."
I know, yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
So I know we're looking at a lot of time. So when you go to a Niners meet up, they give you a giveaway. So these are called rally towels.
Huh? What's a rally towel?
So normally at the game, you're supposed to wave it around your head and stuff. Giveaway. So they can't go on your shelf as such. But I thought I would leave you with a few rally towels.
Oh, how nice.
So, and then next time, because I hope to come back on again, I will try and get you a bobblehead for your shelf.
Absolutely. No, fantastic.
Do it for the beer.
Yeah, so that's a big thing for the Niners. Obviously, a bit of background, they don't play in San Francisco. They relocated 10 years ago to Santa Clara, which is about 40 miles away.
They don't play in their own town?
It's to do with the way American sports do with the stadiums. They don't like to pay for their own stadiums. They like the city to pay for them. So could you imagine Newcastle United going to Newcastle now and saying, can you build us $1 billion stadium, please?
Like Newcastle Council or something?
Yeah. That's how it works. So Levi Stadium is a bit controversial because the plans that they had for it were supposed to be in the middle of San Francisco near the bay, so you could see the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get the money for it, they relocated it 40 miles up the road, but used the same plans. So Levi Stadium's open at both ends.
Right.
Doesn't really fit for where it is, but I loved it because I never thought I'd get to see it. So seeing it for the first time.
When it's called Levi Stadium?
So it's sponsored by the company Levi's.
Right, I wondered.
They're not daft, the Americans.
No.
And a funny story before we finish off, I'm a non-drinker.
Sames.
So trying to get a Coca-Cola or a Red Bull or a Pepsi at Levi Stadium, most of the concession stands only sell alcohol. So I queued, there's a place called Gold Bar Whiskey, so I queued, get to the front, and was like, a bottle of Pepsi, please, mate. He's like, what do you want in it? I was like, literally nothing. So I had to buy a shot of whiskey to give to someone else just to get a bottle of Pepsi. And you can drink in the stands. So the cans, like pint can, $20 a can.
Oof.
Bear in mind, we were there from 10 in the morning till about 6 o'clock at night. I'd hate to think how much some of my friends spent on drinking.
Yeah.
And again, social media, I love to take the photos. You got a few photos of me there. When the game started, I switched my phone off and I lived in the moment. I wasn't one of them, like recording it all. And
I never get that. I never get why you record things that you're watching live. Be there, be in the moment, enjoy it.
We took the girls to see Pink at the Stadium of Light last year. I've got to say it was awesome. Not a massive fan of Pink. But
she's amazing.
Again, we took, my missus doesn't like her phone. She took my phone, she took the girls' phones, and the girls even said it was the best thing. So there was the odd time where we'd given the format they could do a daft recording for 10 seconds or a few selfies, but we actually sat and watched the concert. Mm-hmm. Everyone around us. And I thought, you ain't watching that back.
No.
Like, why have you done that? Spent hundreds of pounds on a ticket.
and watched it through your phone.
Yeah, so that's why the Niners were really good at, they had their own social media. I don't know if you saw on my Instagram, the Niners surprised us. So they took the footage of our day and they made a short.
I haven't seen that.
And they released it on their YouTube and it had 25,000 views.
And it's of yours, of the faithful?
Yeah, of us.
Never. And it was made by them?
Made by them.
High quality?
So 5 of us got interviewed. Who and Hadji's got cut. So we didn't know what they were going to use and they cut the footage. So if you go on the 49ers YouTube page, it's quite hard to find. But my Instagram's locked. But also as well, we've got some, this is it.
Yeah, we ready?
Yeah.
Game day at Levi's Stadium, and members of the UK Faithful fan group have traveled over 5,000 miles to watch these two teams battle it out.
San Francisco 49ers playing exactly the same colours as Sunderland do. And the first time I saw them, I was only about 6-7 years old. And I saw the gold helmets and actually thought they were made of gold. And I just thought, that's really cool. That's got to be my team.
The stadium's amazing. I think you get a good view everywhere. You really get the sound. I think you have a flex of the tower.
How long have you been a Niners fan for?
Maybe about 10 years now. The Niners came over to London in 2013, and I went to that game.
So this is the 49er Faithful UK fan chapter flag. It's grown a life of its own. Lots of people love the flag, love the colours. So we normally, at the end of our shows, we do our own podcast. We always say, stay safe, go Niners.
So she told me the microphone wasn't that high quality. So the lad absolutely had my life because I'm quite a loud person, but it was outside and it was windy.
Yeah.
But that's my signature move. I'm loud. So apologies for people editing on this, but that went, so they didn't tell us about that. So that dropped in like the middle of the night and I woke up one morning to like loads of notifications. I was thinking, this is weird. And that dropped on, so they've got like 2.3 million followers on YouTube.
Wow.
They follow us on Twitter. They don't follow many people. Nick Clark, the fan engagement officer, he's amazing. Shout out to him again. And you think we're basically, I'm the vice president, Lee's the president. We're two blokes in our 40s who live in the northeast of England who have a passion for this team. And our team work with us. I mean, that's living the dream when you think of it that way.
But do you know what I love to see, right? A little speech time, right? I don't pretend to understand the game of American football. However, do respect it. And you know what I love to see? I love to see people passionate about something. I love to see the community that you have built. I love to see how you are like family.
Yeah, definitely.
There's like a family thing going on, and it really does move me. Like when I see you as a group, it's special. Look, it might not be my interest. I'm not, I don't think I'll ever be a avid American football fan. I don't think I will. But watching you guys, it can almost tip you though. It can almost bring you on board.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? Community and passion. That's something I'm taking away from what yous have got, which I think is probably more important than a lot of people know.
One of the things that I wanted to say to you when you've watched your show is it the destination or is it the journey? When you think about it. So you asked me, where do I want this group to go? And I'm thinking, to me, the fixtures get released, we pick a few meetups, and I go and see my friends, lifelong members. You put a photo one before. My friend Brett built a bar in his garden in Falkirk in lockdown. It's absolutely amazing. He'd call it the Candlestick Inn, because that's where our old ground used to be played. So every year now, when I get my holidays and the games come out, I book a trip to Falkirk. And all my friends at work you're going to Falkirk on holiday? No disrespect to anyone living there. And I literally go to watch the game in his pub, in his back garden. And then come home the next day. And like you said, lifelong members, going over to San Francisco. So I went to an NBA game as well when I was there, and that was unreal. Yeah. I loved San Francisco as a city. We were lucky that when we were there, they'd had one of those world summits, so they'd cleaned it all out. So I'm not dogging the city of San Francisco. I know there's problems, but when we were there, we were in the touristy bit, Pier 39.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Golden Gate Bridge was unbelievable.
I think the Chinese president went over or something, didn't he?
Yeah, we landed as his plane was waiting to fly off, and the amount of security around. But the funny thing is, when you've been to America, you get off the plane, you stand in the queue, and they ask you the questions, don't know why you're here, how long you're here for, how much money have you got? Well, technically speaking, I was there on my own because we all booked our own flights.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. Heathrow were like, why are you all wearing red? Like, why is the 36 of you idiots flying out to San Francisco? So we were all in different bits of the immigration, and the lad I had was proper sound. He was like, you're not going to tell me you're here on your own, are you? I went, no, I'm with all these. And he was just blown away that we'd flown over. And he was like, so when are you flying home? Like, yeah, Tuesday. He's like, you've flown 5,000 miles to watch one game and then fly home. I was like, yeah, pretty much when you put it like that.
Pretty much,
Sounds crazy, yeah.
Huh. I think it's amazing. I'm all for it. I think people should have more passion in their life for something. Yeah, I'm taken aback by your knowledge and your interest and your sort of fire for this club and fire for the sport, really.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to see. Do you know, we are going to wind it up because how long have we been running for, Southpaw?
Just under 2 now.
Before we do you have any advice? Because with American football not really been, I won't say not known, right? Because there are obviously communities like your own, but 95, 96, 97% of the time, people don't know anything about it. How, if someone like myself who would like to know more, how would we go about knowing more about NFL? And
I mean, nowadays social media's opened the world up. So, like I said, in season, when the season starts in September, I would definitely recommend you watch Red Zone, which is, like, as I said, it's like, you know, the action-packed match of the day live, flying around the grounds.
How can you watch Red Zone?
So
Just on the internet?
It's normally on Sky Sports.
Right.
So being a fan in the NFL in the UK, if you don't have Sky, it can be difficult. You subscribe to a thing called NFL Game Pass.
Okay.
So I pay like £150 a year, which allows me to log on and watch my team. Now, the downside is the 6 o'clock game and the 9 o'clock game on a Sunday, Sky Sports have exclusive rights in the UK.
Right.
So if the Niners are on at 6 o'clock, it's called blackout. So my £150 pass to watch online is useless,
right?
Unless I have Sky. But Red Zone's normally on Sky Sports Mix. Again, I would suggest at this time, if anyone's watching this now and think, right, I want to get into the NFL in September, my advice would be, look at America, pick where you want to go. So, for example, Las Vegas has the Raiders. New York has 2 football teams. San Francisco, obviously, California. Green Bay Packers is a popular team, but they're in Wisconsin. And from what I gather, it's always cold. I live in the northeast of England. I don't want to go anywhere that's cold.
No.
So I would look at that. And again, I'm a fan of the NFL. You could say to me, right, Paul, I'm going to support the Carolina Panthers. Southpaw's going to be the Ravens. We're going to watch this. 6 o'clock, my house. Are you coming? Absolutely.
You would watch the game?
Normally, we book our Super Bowl party at the start of the season, because for me, if the Niners aren't in the Super Bowl, I'm still going out and watching it.
Yeah, of course.
It's like the Oscars of the NFL.
I mean, it's like watching the World Cup final. Well, maybe not the World Cup final, but, you know, the FA Cup final. Same. I don't mind who's playing in the FA Cup final. I'm still interested.
100%.
The mistake people will make, if you think about it, say someone wanting to get into football, watches the Champions League final, and it's Man City, Barcelona, and it's really tight, and it's 1-0. And they come away that thinking, that was a bit boring. Think of it the same as the Super Bowl. It's the ultimate game. It's the games are at stake. I would suggest you watch a game that's like got not as much meaning, and pick a team you like. Like I said, I fell in love with Colin Kaepernick, and I bought a cap. You know, and I brought another cap to show you. I thought, get your thoughts on this.
Go on.
So this company is called Residency, not sponsored by them, but a guy basically had a friend who played for the Niners, and he set this company up. Right. And I saw that hat, and I thought, I want that hat.
Sexy looking hat.
They weren't available in the UK, and I made it my mission to get hold of one. So I won one on a podcast. So I was the first one in the UK with this hat. So imagine I look like the absolute boyo going to these meetups.
Yeah.
And then they opened up to the UK, but they're expensive. So there's another lad in our group, Gary. I'll give him a shout out. He's got about 12 of these. I'd hate to think how much he's paid for them.
How much one of them set you back?
That cost me £55.
That's a dear cap, innit?
So I brought this to show you because you guys were talking about fashion, and you guys were talking about like if the suits are ever going to run out. And I debated today, do I wear my Niners gear?
You
or
have
do I
to.
come suited and booted? And I thought, you know what, you've got me on your show because of the NFL connection. And I'm Mr. 49ers. And I just wanted to show you, Trey Shows laughs at me. Now I know what that is. You didn't know what that was.
No, just a good look.
That could have cost you a $5. But basically, the SF is for San Francisco, and the company's called Residency. But they're not officially licensed by the NFL. So it made it even better because the players started wearing them. So again, in the NFL community, if a player wears something,
it's done. It's a done deal.
Innit?
Yeah, but what you just said, exactly that. 100%, you have to come in the Niners gear.
Yeah.
100%. Like, I know there's a lot more to you than just the 49ers, evidently, as you've just shown us. But for someone like me who did a little bit of research, well, 99% is about 49ers. Yeah. Like, there's very little else, But
my social media is designed that way. So
of course.
What you guys are,
it's your passion.
You're not sharing the bad days. I mean, when I ruptured my Achilles tendon, I didn't share a lot of the dark days. And I had some dark days in that. When my marriage broke down, I had some dark days. And I don't mind admitting I became Super Dad of the Year. My social media 5 years ago was like, okay, you've got a kid. We get it. And that question you asked, I'm with you, lads. When Ben said he'd save his missus and not the kids, that blew my mind. Now, I'm a dad. Has to be the kids. Has to be. I love the fact that you rang your mum.
Yeah.
Like his missus. You rang and it was like... So I said that to my missus straight away. She's like, well, you have to save the kids, wouldn't you?
Of course you do.
So it's little things like you asking me, how do you grow? You're already growing because I'm watching your show and I'm talking to my friends about your show. They're talking to their friends about the show. Like, I know when this drops, I'll share it on my social media.
Oh, thank you.
I know people are already, what you're doing this afternoon, Paul? You've taken the afternoon off work. I'm driving to Northallerton or Beedale to do a podcast. And they're like, don't you do lots of them? I was like, not face to face.
Yeah.
So I was excited and nervous coming here for this.
Both, same here. I was both excited and nervous. I was worried that I was going to get too deep into NFL talk and I'd be out my depth. It basically dawned on us like last night. We thought, I said, do you know anything about NFL? And he was like, nah. And I was like, I don't. And he was like,
yeah.
Like, what are we going to do?
Dan does do the bulk of the research for all the guests, but we were a little bit stifled with the NFL. But one thing I can appreciate, and I think why you're reaching a greater audience with the UK is the sort of the way you can relate it to other things. You did a lot of things with it. You were saying, it's related to Newcastle or Wembley, or that's what the scenario would be. Now, I think that's personally, from what I've seen today, that's your position on your podcast. You can relate things in a way that everybody else can understand. Now, when you're so clued up like your other people on your podcast, they're probably not as easily able to do that. But the way you do it and the way you've done it today, I understood a great deal of it because of this.
Great communicator.
Yeah, the simplicity that you put across to it. So
I know, to be fair, everything you've explained, it's fully understable now.
Yeah. Without the meetups, what you'd like, or I'd love you to come for. So when the meetups got bigger and bigger, we saw a lot of people reach out, social anxiety, I've got autism, I've got ADHD. How am I going to be received? And every single person who come to our meetup has said, the second they walk through that door, they've got Niners gear on. See, my missus does not like to wear the Niners gear. But when she comes to a meetup, I say to her, if you don't have anything Niners on, you're going to feel stupid. Literally, trust me. And that's what people have said. And we've had some great feedback from the community about people coming in, lifelong friends.
Yeah.
I mean, before we finish off, went to London last year for the October meetup.
Oh, yeah.
Trains were cancelled. It was mental. So I get on the train, sits down, guy opposite me, Dallas Cowboys fan, started giving me a load of banter because they're our rivals. My mate Oliver is a big lad. Muscle-bound, Hulk Hogan, think big. So I text him and says, I'm on the train. So he appears, this Dallas Cowboys fan's face dropped. And Oliver was like, any problems here? And he's like, no. I've only ever met Oliver once before in my life. And he plonks himself next to me and we go down the train to London for 3 hours and we're talking family, we're talking kids. Like what we've done today, I knew we weren't going to talk a lot NFL and I didn't want to come here and bore you with the NFL. I was quite excited to kind of tell you that I watch your show, a big fan of what you are doing. And if there's anything I can do to help, because that's another reason why I think would help when you get people on.
I think everybody should help each other out. That's what I think it is. There's a bit of a cultural thing where I think, especially in our country, a lot of people, for the most part, don't want to share their little bit of fame with other people. Yeah, in the short time I've been doing this, I've noticed that let's say, for example, I speak to somebody on the show, and let's say, there was no sort of said thing, but the unsaid thing was that they would share that podcast, and then they don't. And I think I understand why. I don't hate them for it. I've got no bad words against, people who don't, but I do think there's a little bit of, this is my fame and I'm keeping it, a little bit of that.
Well, that residency act, the reason I shared that is basically they really embraced that we were buying their stuff. And a couple of years ago on Father's Day, they shared a picture of me with the girls, with American football players on their adverts. And I remember waking up next morning, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Because that's what they were growing their brand. It was all done on social media. There was no advertising. And like I said, you don't have to ask me to share it. I know people are keen to watch this because there's some people who might know me through the group that don't know some of the stuff that I've shared with you. I mean, I did a pod last night with a 49ers fan who's just started his own channel. And I have no bones saying he's got like not many watchers, not many subscribers. And he was blown away that we were giving him that time. I was like, well, if I can help you, that's the way I got into this. Some of the big content creators had me on their shows. I mean, Larry Kruger, who's one of the biggest one, he's based in San Francisco. He waited up till midnight last year to interview me at 7 a.m. because it was better for me to do it on a morning.
I love that.
And I was blown away that this guy, he's actually, you know, a paid beat writer, which means he has access to the team. He covers the team. That's his paid job.
Yeah.
He wanted to meet me that much. He waited up till midnight to interview me, and I felt a bit guilty. You know, I woke up quite refreshed, 7 a.m, like, hi, Larry. And he's like, honestly. And
he's
things
knackered.
like that blown me away.
Yeah, man.
Oh, what was he getting out of it other than talking to me?
That's what it's about, though, isn't it? Everyone should help everybody if they can. What's the saying?
It's nice to be nice.
Yeah, pull somebody up with you. If
Yeah,
you take
100%.
a step up, pull the next person up. You know what I mean? There's not enough of that in the world. Here. What was that guy's name?
Larry Kruger.
Shout out to Larry Kruger. Man like Kruger. You know this flag football? That's something I've never heard of. How do people, if they want to, go try it out?
It's a growing sport, so I don't know if you follow the Olympics. It's going to be an Olympic sport.
No way.
So it's getting... Think of five-a-side football. All of a sudden, overnight, UEFA decide five-a-side football is going to be at the next Olympics. Mm-hmm. And basically, all the lads in England who play five-a-side football go down to a centre and the best 5 get picked. But the amateur, the pub league footballers, that's what flag football's at the moment. The Americans are obviously the best in the world. The women Team GB team won the European Championship last year, and it's really an addictive sport. I'm probably a bit of an exclusive here. I'm tempted to go back. I technically retired at the start of this season, and my mate Connor plays for the team that I played for, and they've just had their first game day last weekend, and he was texting me, and I'm like, and I'm seeing the footage on social media, and I'm like, I could have. So in the northeast, there's a team based at Middlesbrough. So if anyone wants to go up that way, obviously just Google it and have a look. There's not many around, so I think we've got Middlesbrough, there's Newcastle, and then the rest are down south. But,
is this Steel River Stingrays?
Yeah. So I did a little bit of the social media from last year, but again, I decided I've got a lot on my plate with the Niners stuff. Obviously, got a partner and kids and.
Yeah, you've got a lot on, brother.
Yeah,
you've got a lot on. The 49ers Faithful UK group, if somebody wants to join your group, how do they go about that?
So if you're on Facebook, obviously search 49ers Faithful UK. We do ask a couple of questions. We do like you to be a Niners fan.
Is there a screening process? Is there?
Yeah, there's a screening process. If you don't want to go through that screening process, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's very American football heavy. I make no apologies for that. Or again, 49ers Faithful UK on Twitter and on Instagram. We've just dipped out onto Discord, which I didn't know too much about. It's a social media platform, which some people like, some people don't. But in general, if you're watching this and you want to know more, just reach out to me. I'm the face of the group. I'm the one who's always on my phone, despite my screen time.
How can people find you then?
So my Twitter and Instagram are all at Paul_Hope10. Basically, my birthday's the 10th of August. So that's the same. My Instagram is locked because I have kids.
Of course.
My Twitter is open because I use it just for American football. So again, you sent me a friend request on Instagram. I thought I'll do my homework. There's no point. Dan's got like 3 posts.
I do nothing. Yeah, I'm not a social media guy.
All right, okay, yeah. So
I don't apologise. I don't get it. I try, but I don't get it.
And we have our YouTube channel. So again, at 49ers Faithful UK. So a lot of people ask about the name. I don't know where the name come from. A lot of people like the 49ers or the San Francisco 49ers. But you've seen some of the footage about Faithful to the Bay, Faithful to the UK. So we decided with 49er Faithful UK, and obviously it's kind of stuck.
Yeah. Well, so it's Paul_Hope10, and that's across everything.
Across everything, yeah.
49 and Faithful UK, pretty much across everything. You just start clicking and following those links, and you'll end up where you want to be.
Yeah, so similar to you guys, I'll be posting this when it goes on my social medias, and I have already started sharing. Like the one with Jord, I howled. I was on a train going somewhere, and I was absolutely crying all the way through, with laughter, with a bit of sadness. His poem he wrote.
Beautiful, man.
Me. Again, just showing you guys might think you come up here, you're having a conversation. I've seen the numbers go up. I've seen the views go up since I've started watching your podcasts, and you start to feel that you get to know people a bit more.
But I think it's a key what you said. I think you should just enjoy. I think you said it.
Yeah,
I said that. So you just enjoy what you do.
I do it as a hobby, Dan.
Yeah, don't worry about the end goal.
I do it as a hobby.
I mean, we've said this from the beginning. If this never ends up being anything, and we just for the next few years end up doing this week in, week out, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I'd like to do it as a job, but if not, that's okay, because the journey's better than the destination, right?
Yeah, and again, going about the sponsorships, it is nice if people are going to sponsor you, but when I watch some of the content creators, I feel a bit cringeworthy when they have to insert, so say, for example, if, you had to insert Dash Media every 10 minutes, I've seen somewhere, and it doesn't fit.
No.
That's one of the content creators was sponsored by a food company based in America. We're watching in the UK thinking, I'm never going to buy that. But Red Bull will be a good sponsor for you.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. So if Red Bull are listening, I'm sure they are. If Red Bull are listening, just give us a shout. We are expensive. So, but yeah, we are open to, selling our souls for money. We've said that from the beginning.
I don't mind that, mate.
No. Listen, Paul, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for coming. Thank you for these kind gifts. They're lovely. I think you're a proper interesting guy, mate. There's a lot about you I didn't know. There's a lot about you that isn't out there on the internet that you've been kind enough to share with us. Thank you. I think you are an inspiration to young people, because that seems to be something that you find, innately seems to work for you. And your knowledge on American football is admirable, mate. You know what you're talking about, brother. And the podcast thing, mate, you're an absolute natural.
Thank you. Well, when I come back, I will bring you a gift for the stand. My missus, it's her fault. I did have one in the basket on eBay, and I was like, shall I bring it for them? She was like, they don't like American football, Paul. You're going to look really stupid, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, but I thought I have to give you a gift.
No, this is great, and this will be one way or the other hung up. We'll find a way to do it.
Yeah, we'll get that sorted.
We'll get that up. So yeah, watch out for the next episode after yours, because you'll see something of the faithful. Paul Hope, thank you. Amazing. That's the end of that. Got anything else to say, South Paul?
No, just all that good stuff. Like, subscribe, share, comment, anything good like that. But yeah, Paul, pleasure.
Thanks, Paul. See you next time.